This episode of the Movie Defenders podcast is brought to you by the support and generous donations of Kevin Athey, Jeremy Bensley, Alexis Borchardt, Brett Bowen, Megan Bush, Richard Cree, Josh Evans, Daryl Ewry, Bart Gurman, Alex Kirkby, Joshua Loy, Sean Masters, Mark Nattress, Owen Payne, Jim Sharples, Brev Tanner, and Barrett Young. Greetings, movie fans, and welcome to another episode of the Movie Defenders podcast. The only podcast that knows if you're in a village that's being attacked by an F5 alleged tornado threatening to destroy everyone and everything you love, do what we do in Kansas. Get your phone, go outside, and take pictures. It's called storm chasing. I am Scott, and with me is a man who also manifests his darkest fears into reality, resulting in nothing but effigies of Billy Joel and Elton John playing metalcore breakdowns on down-tuned electric guitars, burning their pianos. Donald, how are you this morning? I'm sorry, that's got to be a nightmare, I'm sure.
Oh, no, that's a dream come true. No, I like it. That's good, Scott.
I'd actually pay to see that concert.
Absolutely. Of course, you kidding me? That'd be amazing.
How are you? You good? It's early.
I'm doing all right. Yeah, we're recording a little early today. I jazzed myself up with some Toad the Wet Sprocket, so we're fine.
Toad the Wet Sprocket. Wow.
How's that?
Right.
How's that for a blast from the past?
I was like not doing that. I was not doing that. I wasn't doing Beck. I wasn't doing any of that stuff.
Anyway. I don't do Beck other than the Scott Pilgrim soundtrack. So yeah.
That's fair. He earned that one. He earned my respect.
He really did.
All I kept thinking when that movie was on or that video was in heavy rotation, I was like, "Yes, you are a loser. Now shut the fuck up." I'm just kidding. Anyway, all right, guys. Well, that's not all. We are joined today by a man who also wears a puppet on his offhand that he talks to often, not to show authorities where he's been touched, but rather to show ladies where to touch him. Brev, good morning. How are you?
I am great, except the mention of Toad the Wet Sprocket had this massive flashback in my mind of my first girlfriend because she loved them. And I once described it as listening to music while chained underwater where your nose just barely can't breach the surface of the water.
That's an amazing illustration. That's very evocative.
I couldn't do it. I was like, please stop. And I'm not a big country fan either, but I can do a few country songs to be okay. But Toad the Wet Sprocket was just like, oh my god.
What about Gin Blossoms?
You know, Gin Blossoms are okay because they actually have some sort of a heartbeat to it. There's like there's something going on in the song. It's like there's percussions, there's movement. Toad the Wet Sprocket just felt like I literally just said like I'm drowning and I can't get my nose above the water.
Interesting.
Surface, and I can't get a breath in and I could see it. I could see it. And I can't get, dear God, please.
It's almost more torturous. Yeah.
Yes.
For me, I was just still angry at all those bands that made it not okay to play Def Leppard on the radio anymore. And I was just resentful. Because all of it just, like, it wasn't okay anymore. I'm like, could I just have my own radio station over here? That'd be fine. Mm-hmm. Nope, you're not allowed. You must listen to Nirvana and the Gin Blossoms and you will love it.
It's like, now you get your own radio station, Scott.
I was like, I'm still bumping like New Jersey in my car. What do we do? Why do I have to listen to this? Anyway.
A few years ago, a buddy of mine and I went to go see Styx and Def Leppard in concert.
Oh my.
And despite the fact that he got food poisoning, in case he's ever listening to this, I'm still sorry, Jeff, that happened to you. But that was one of my favorite concerts because I was like, this is awesome. It Styx. This is great. And the Def Leppard. Whoa! I mean, we went nuts. There were people our age and older. I mean, it was the best. Yeah, so man. I had a great time.
That's awesome. One. Yeah, I haven't seen Styx. I've seen Def Leppard a few times, but it is all good. Well, hey man, welcome back. You've been on many times. We won't go through horrible introductions again, but yeah, you've been on several times. You're last on Interstellar, and we brought you on because you would be not a dissenting voice, but an alternate voice, which was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun. It's one of my favorite shows. I get it. It's good.
I know I really appreciated that one. One because it got my ass off to actually watch the movie because I'd purchased it a few years before, and I was like, I'm going to watch this. I'm going to watch this. I'm going to watch this. And then when you guys pinged me like, hey, you want to join us? Like, yes, but I need like 4 hours before I can do that. So
That's right.
Yeah, that was those are Nolan's got long movies. Let's
he
just be real.
does. He does. And it's still a gorgeous film. Like I think you shared on the Facebook page a little while ago about his cinematography. And I mean, he's just, and like Denis Villeneuve or another one, like when they make movies, they're just pieces of art to look at alone. I mean, you can't help but be like, oh, that's just so pretty looking. So
Exactly.
That's true. That's true. Well, I watched, I don't know what you guys watched really quick. I only watched one. I mentioned it on socials, but most people who listen to us don't follow the socials. I actually watched The Way Back that Affleck dropped a couple of years back.
How was it? That was actually last year. That was last year. How was it?
That's right. It's one of the best you know what got me to watch it finally was Vanity Fair, one of the others that does YouTube movie stuff. I get all kinds of it doesn't matter the movie type. I get all kinds of movie suggestions on my feed. And it was Matt Damon picks his favorite Ben Affleck performances. And he put The Way Back on his list. And I was like, really? So I watched, and two things are great. There's three things about the movie that are actually great. One, his performance is really fucking dope. And the fact that he really went through some serious alcoholism right before it, it was very clear he was pulling from absolute experience. It was really clear. Then the other part was the basketball is the most realistic I have ever seen done. Like I love Hoosiers and I'll cheer and cry every time I watch that movie, but I get like the choreography of it. No. This didn't look choreographed. The kids were really going at it and playing, and it was intelligent because I know the game really well, the vernacular, what they were saying and how they were saying it. I totally understand. They didn't treat the audience dumb. They just used basketball lingo, and it was great.
Wait,
and then the third one was
wait, hold on. Pause right there. What about Teen Wolf? That has the best basketball choreography. Most realistic for sure. If you've ever seen a werewolf playing basketball, you know.
I was gonna go Air Bud, but I think Donald wins a Teen Wolf. So
I actually think that Chubbs on that team beats the Wolf anyway. So it's just not gloss over Chubbs.
That's true.
The last one was you think it's going to be cliched, which is the down and out team finally gets the coach for one last chance, and they just make the playoffs. Like it's barreling toward every sports cliche, and then before the last piece, the final act, it actually deviates. And I won't spoil it, but it's just enough that I was like, that ending kind of surprised me. I did not think it was going to go there. Okay. And I loved it. So those are the three cool things. So I liked it a lot. And it's not that long, and I think it's on Hulu or something right now, but anyway, I dug it.
So I have to apologize. When you said The Way Back, in my head, I heard The Tender Bar.
Oh.
And The Tender Bar was last year. The Way Back was a couple years ago. And I heard that he gave a fantastic performance in The Way Back. So yeah, I apologize, Scott. I talked shit about you on your own show.
Well, at least
it's about just your knowledge. So.
Well, it's 2-on-1 for that now. So that's true. It's all good. I don't know. You guys see anything? You guys watch anything?
Yeah. Do you want to go first, Donald? It's your show.
No. I actually haven't been watching too much. Frankly, I've been listening to stuff.
Last night was our final Cub Scout event, and we've been doing a movie night a couple of times here recently, just because of the worldwide pandemic, and the kids liked it so much they wanted to do it again. I was like, okay, fine, we'll do a movie night. And so we rented one of those big screens and got the gymnasium at the church, and we watched Encanto. So we have watched since I have a 4-year-old, which again, thank you all for the lovely gifts. She loved them. We watched Encanto now for the 100th time. But that's a movie to me that gets better every time I watch it. Every time I see it, I'm like, wow, this is a really good movie. And there's a lot of hit you in the face with stuff, but there's also a lot of subtleties in that movie.
Tons of subtleties,
Oh, that just makes it brilliant. And it's Lin-Manuel Miranda is just a freaking gem. He's amazing. But also been catching up on, because I never watched season 3 of Daredevil on Netflix, and now I'm in a panic to get it done. So I thought I was finishing up this morning at 12:30 this morning, only to find out I still have 3 episodes to go. And I'm like, son of a bitch.
Oh, cool.
Okay, I gotta finish this before it leaves Netflix. So, but I'm loving it. To me, All right, I'm going to go on a limb. I think that's the best Marvel show yet, is Daredevil, seasons 1 through 3. I think that's great. WandaVision's my close number 2, but I think Daredevil just captures the essence of that character and is so just, its tone, its performances, the storyline, everything that he goes through is just so amazing that I just eat it up.
Yeah.
So
no, that I said on the social, and I still believe it. But that hallway scene still it made me tear up the first time I saw it. And it's because of and I said on social, so you all know what I'm gonna say. But if you didn't know, like what I loved about it, what was so pure about it was after that one, to execute that hallway, it took them 2 days and a lot of takes because it's a single take. And there's even a couple punches that where the camera is, you could tell didn't land. I don't know how you do that otherwise. Like it was damn near flawless. But anyway, when he gets to the end of the hallway where the kid who's been kidnapped is, and he's in there, you can't see him. You can't see the kid. He goes to go in to grab him and get him out of there. And right before he walks in, he pulls his mask up. And that's not for him. He's blind. It doesn't matter. It's for the kid to not be scared because the kid's probably terrified. And that little subtle gesture always gets me like, oh man, that's a fucking hero. And then he grabs the kid and gets out of there. So anyway, I love that scene.
Did you see season 3?
Yeah.
The scene with the prison?
Oh yeah.
I was like eating cereal, like, oh my God, this is similar to that hallway scene. Not quite to that emotion and much longer, but that same sort of idea, like it's all one long take and just this amazing choreography. I was just like, oh my God, why didn't I watch this years ago? This is so great.
So, I know. It's really dope. Oh man. Well, you guys, Donald, if you didn't, you've been listening to stuff, not watching this week, not much.
Right. I've been catching up on some audiobooks that I've got and like the Thrawn, the second book in the first Tron, the first modern Thrawn trilogy. So yeah. I think it's Thrawn Alliances. I had that in the hopper for a while, and I'm gonna move on to Thrawn Treason at some point here. But
that's cool. I listened to the first one. I got 2 books I'm reading. They're nonfiction, but I did Ahsoka I read on audiobook, and then the original Thrawn, the new modern one I read, and then there's one more. I'm trying to remember what it was.
And then the other thing, I shouldn't maybe broadcast other or advertise other podcasts, but Brian Brushwood is a stage magician and like has done a lot of stuff with like video, like streaming and shows and things like that on the internet. And I adore him. I think he's friggin' awesome. And he has a new podcast out. Actually, I think it's from last year, but it's called The World's Greatest Con. Season 1 was about Operation Mincemeat in World War II, where they, the British intelligence plants false intelligence information on a body that they make wash up on the shore of Spain, and it makes its way to Hitler, so that the Allied invasion of Italy is it goes successfully. And spoiler alert, but that's so conning Hitler is pretty compelling story, and he tells it in a good way.
Nice. Well, you guys are ready to get through some announcements and mosey into the fun stuff?
Yeah.
All right, I'm ready. All right, well, if this is your first episode listening to the Movie Defender podcast, we're a proud member of the Prescribed Films Podcast Network, and you can catch our show along with every other show over at thepfpn.com. We are now at 30 shows even, and meaning Donald and I now, even though it was a few years ago, we are now in the top half of shows that have joined the podcast network. I think we're 14th or something.
We're officially
now a veteran. Yeah, we're a seasoned veteran, I guess. But the latest show to join is one that if you're a fan of zombie movies and you love that genre, it's just called Fans of the Dead. And there's a couple guys, Mike and Jeremy, that do everything related to there's some horror movies. They did Krampus for Christmas because it was like a Christmas horror movie, but mostly they stick to zombie, Walking Dead stuff and all different aspects of it. They don't just talk movies. They'll talk their favorite movie posters. They'll talk heavy metal music in horror. They'll talk all kinds of stuff. So anyway, if you love that stuff, check out Fans of the Dead over at thepfpn.com. And other than that, Donald, how can everybody get a hold of us, talk to us? And I don't know why they'd want to, but if they do, let them.
Well, you can first find all of our feed on moviedefenders.libsyn.com. That's libsyn.com. It's kind of our home base for our show. And then Twitter, Instagram at Movie Defenders, Facebook.com/Movie Defenders. And then we've got the Movie Defenders discussion group on Facebook, which you can search for. There are some entry questions, which are just to keep out the bots, and there are lots of bots. So please join us there. And there's a lot of lively discussion there. It's pretty awesome. And then email themoviedefenders@gmail.com. Include the in the email address. And then Brev is one of our patrons, patreon.com/Movie Defenders. And you can start with just $1 a month and get an entire second show we call our Backlot Tour. And Scott, this is like a grab bag. It's miscellaneous stuff that we, either can't fit on the show, or we want to talk about at something more at length, or just shooting the shit about other stuff. It's a couple movie fans just kind of going off, and then there are tiers up as high as $10 a month, which is our director's tier. That will get you on the show to talk about a movie of your choice, which is Brev. I think that's why you're here, among other reasons. That's how we started with you. And then we'll just get you on for talking about Interstellar or something else, which is awesome. Yep.
Did you, so last backlot we did Ivan Reitman's Tears movies. Is that, you love lists, Brev? Is that kind of cool? Do you like that segment? Like, we just found it. I don't know.
No, I loved it. I like lists. I've even listened to some commentators about other subjects do lists just to see the list, which I don't always agree with. But no, I really enjoyed Gerald's Ivan Reitman one. It was interesting to me because we're all about the same age. Which movies you guys have seen and haven't seen?
Yeah.
And I remember the discussion on Junior, which was funny because I saw it one time and I've forgotten it exists. And then when you brought it up, like, oh, this movie's just terrible. I buy the premise, but the premise isn't what's bad about it. It's the rest of the movie that's terrible. And it's like, I don't want to revisit it. Because when I turned, I was like, oh, well, it's Ivan Reitman, it's Schwarzenegger. It's cute, right? Like, no, maybe just don't go back. Maybe just hold on to that memory and just let it go. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. No, we have a lot of fun over there. Speaking of having a lot of fun, we are ready for our first segment, which is our top 5 segment. Speaking of lists, we're going to do a list, but I have a surprise for you guys. So I've been teasing that I need to make new bumpers because we've had bumpers for 3-4 years. So for all the listeners who listen a long time, and for both of you, you're going to hear the new 5x5 bumper. Now, here's the cool part. So every scene from a movie in here either talks about 5 of something or something's the best. And I managed to keep Morgan Freeman in here. So you can listen for Morgan Freeman. I'm really anxious to see if you like this one. I hope you do. Anyway, it should be funny. It should be fun. At least I hope. Anyway, you guys ready? You guys ready to hear the new bumper while we talk about this crazy bullshit? All right, here we go. All right, it is time for 5x5.
We're in the pipe. 5x5.
This is going to be the best ever.
Not to pat myself on the back, but yes, it probably will be. Here we go.
Red 5 standing by.
May the best dog win.
How many shrinks you go to before me?
5. 500 yards of shit-smelling foulness I can't even imagine.
I wasn't the best because I killed quickly. I was the best because the crowd loved me.
Give me 5. Just put out your hand like this. Come on. All right. Now hit me. Give me 5. Do the same thing. All right.
Because you were the best of us.
Who's hungry? Who's hungry?
Oh, come on. Is this guy for real? Yeah, he's fine. He's good. He's the best there is.
Okay, ladies, our thumbs are down, our wrists are flexed, and we're going to position ourselves for insertion.
Hey, these guys are professionals. They're the best.
You know what's a fun game?
Huh?
You take 3 Excedrin PMs and you see if you could whack off before you fall asleep. You always win is the best part about the game.
I only caught 5.
There you go. Wow. What do we think?
What was Hungry Like the Wolf one?
Oh god,
that's from Old School where they took the BJ class.
Okay.
Oh god.
No wonder it's been so long.
I loved Steve Carell when he goes, "You take 3 Excedrin PM." Steve Carell goes, Long exhale. I can't believe I'm in this conversation.
That's my line. I quote that line a lot.
Well, bro,
oh my god. I had the other one memorized is the problem, and now I have to memorize a whole new thing. But I'm good. You know what, guys? Thanks. We could just make this the show. I'm done.
All right. No, it's really cool. There's a movie script. There's a movie script searchable database, and all you have to type in is any word, and it will search any movie script it's got, grab where the line was said, and then if you push a button, it gives you the context. So you see the scene, like, oh, I remember that scene from that movie, and then go find it and do it. So that whole thing, I did it last night.
Nice.
I was done with the show. So yeah. Anyway,
that reminds me of the website that Seth Rogen's character and his buddies are building in.
Yes.
And what was that movie with Katherine Heigl? The
Knocked Up.
Yeah, where they're building a website where
they're building Mr. Skin again. Is what they're building.
Where you can look up any female nudity in any movie, and it tells you exactly when and what time it happens. It's like, oh god.
And then at the end of the movie,
right
at the end of the movie, they find MrSkin.com. Like, man, somebody already did this. Like, what are we doing?
And 1 hour 34 minutes in, it's like, oh god, guys.
Oh man. Well, I'll tell you what. Hey, Brev, if you want to, anyway, I'm glad that worked. Anyway, that'll be fun.
Awesome.
I need to get another one for news, our news stuff. We do news less and less, but it's still fun. We do that, and we still got others. And Donald and I even thought of another segment we may do, which would be fun. So anyway, well, Brev, this top 5 segment, or I guess topic or whatever, was so why don't you tell us what we're talking about?
Yeah, so I thought it'd be fun considering the movie that we're doing is one of the X-Men films. In fact, the last Fox X-Men film, which is sad to me. But I thought it'd be fun to do a top 5x5 is for X-Men casting. So your favorite casting of an actor for the X-Men franchise for Fox. So it could be either one of the Fox movies or television shows, even including cartoons. But it couldn't be Wolverine, Professor X, or Magneto, because basically that'd be the top 5 right there. So
yeah, easily.
I'm sure it'd be Hugh Jackman, Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, James McAvoy, and Michael Fassbender. And okay, done. We're finished. That was fun. So I thought it'd be fun to take those characters out. So,
what's funny is like I was reviewing this and I was looking over the topics, the topic, and I'm like, not Magneto, Professor X, or Wolverine. Okay, so what about McAvoy? I think he's got to be my number 1, right? Oh shit, he's Professor X.
Yep.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yep.
That shows how Patrick Stewart is like Professor X in my mind, just permanently. But then McAvoy is also excellent. So anyway, but we're gonna go with everybody else.
Everybody else.
Well, Brev, you got any honorable mentions? Didn't quite make it.
I have 3 particular honorable mentions, and
so do I. Very good.
Yeah, and so they're all from the same movies, actually. So I have Sophie Turner as Jean Grey, Ty Sheridan as Cyclops, and Alexandra Shipp as Storm. I really loved the casting of these 3 younger actors in these roles, and I was so excited to see what they could do. And therefore, like, I thought Apocalypse was okay. I didn't think it was great. I didn't think it was fantastic. I know you guys defended the hell of it, which I appreciate. But I thought these 3 were spectacular, and I wanted to see more of them. And I didn't think that Dark Phoenix was the movie it could have been, but also we're talking about, we'll get that here in a side. But I thought these 3 were so good, and I wanted more of them, and I was sad to see they didn't continue. So,
yep.
Those are my honorable mentions.
Mine are, and I don't remember who goes first or last time, Donald, but mine, I got Anna Paquin as Rogue. The first movie was a lot of her movie, and everyone kind of forget. It gets a little bit lost, but she's definitely the MacGuffin. You don't even learn that till later. Right. But she is. I thought Kelsey Grammer did Beast really fucking dope. Didn't get a lot of screen time, but looked the freaking part. Even just his look alone and how he talked and all that stuff. I thought he captured it really well. And then I also have Alexandra Shipp as Aurora, as Storm. I thought the accent, her look, all of it was so accurate. And I loved Halle Berry's performance, and it was fine. Just that reminded me more of the comic and the character, if that made any sense. And I know it's like 20 years later, so it's not fair to compare, but Anyway,
I obviously agree with you. So because I thought she was fantastic.
I did too. Yeah, I'll talk more about Alexander Shipp, but real quick on Kelsey Grammer. It was for me the greatest part of him being Beast was you would never have expected him to be in full makeup like that, and the gravitas that he brings to that character is spot on. So I loved seeing him in that. It was kudos to him for taking that because I would not have expected him to.
Yeah, and he was coming off Frasier talking like the intellectual that's the part of Beast that he nailed so well as he sounded like the smartest guy in the room. So
exactly,
which he was. So
very cool.
What are yours? Yeah,
I have 3 honorable mentions as well, and I'm going to start with something that I would not have expected that worked great, which is Peter Dinklage as Trask in Days of Future Past. Oh. Dude, I mean, well, first off, talk about gravitas. He's a fantastic actor. And the fact that he brings that to, he plays kind of a balanced character, for being a bad guy. He's also, not mustache twirling, which is great. And I thought he was good. Nicholas Hoult as Beast in the First Class movies, and then Jennifer Lawrence as Raven or Mystique in those movies as well. So I love what they brought to those characters.
It's funny. You see what Brev does to me being on the show. When you said he brings, do you know what my head went? His milkshake to the yard is what was in my head. And it really shouldn't be, but Brev pulls this crap out of me when he's on the show. So it's your freaking fault, Brev. There you go.
Yes, GM Thanks, Chris Brev. Calls me an enabler. He said, most people don't speak this way until you show up. And then all of a sudden it's poo-poo and pee-pee everywhere. So
it's working. Chris is correct. He is absolutely correct. Yeah, you're welcome. All right. What is your number 5, dude?
So my number 5 has actually been mentioned twice already, but nice. I thought Kelsey Grammer as Beast in X-Men The Last Stand is absolutely fantastic casting. He, as Scott pointed out, he's just coming off of the role of Frasier, which I loved Frasier when I was younger. I thought that show was awesome. He captures the intellectualism, the arrogance, and just that feeling of that I'm always right that Beast has. And I would have, because I can't stand the character Hank McCoy. I think Hank McCoy is an asshole. He is one of my least favorite X-Men, certainly my least favorite of the original 5. But he also serves a purpose for the X-Men. And I think that Grammer, had there been more opportunities, I would have loved to have seen how that character could have spun out of control using his reason or rationale as a justification for the actions that he will take later. But I think that Grammer was perfect. When I heard he was cast for it, I was like, that's so genius. I can't believe Hollywood did it. I cannot believe that worked out like that. So he's my number 5.
Nice. The only thing that I didn't like with Nicholas Hoult is, and it's not, look, they did it with Jennifer Lawrence too. They kept him out of the makeup for ease, convenience, lower budget, all that stuff. But convenient. I got a serum. I just pushed it, and I don't have to be Beast no more. That's not how he was though. He was always Beast. I never remember him flipping back and forth, so I could be wrong. But anyway, with him always in full makeup, I love the hell of it. And watching him I never thought I'd see Kelsey Frazier on the battlefield in blue makeup beating the snot out of people.
Right.
It was very cool. My number 5 has been mentioned already, and that's Sophie Turner as Jean Grey. She's a really underrated actress. I know everyone I did not get into the Game of Thrones fever. I've seen the show. I'm well aware of it. I understand its place in pop culture, and I get all the references. I did not make that appointment television for me. I caught on late after it became a phenomenon. I watched seasons behind where everybody was, but I watched. But I thought she did great. And even if you don't like where they went with Dark Phoenix and there's continuity issues and things that we've talked about, but she carried it. She did really, really well. And I loved, like you said, Brev, the casting choice was fantastic. The movie before, I think she did great. I felt like I was watching a younger version of Famke Janssen, and she did fantastic. So if I could imagine Jean in that movie, or in the movie series as a teenager, that's kind of where my head would probably land. Anyway, thought she did fantastic. So cool. Number 5. Yeah. What's yours, man?
My number 5 is Alan Cumming as Nightcrawler in the original couple of movies. I guess it's 2 and 3, right? Mainly 2.
Yeah.
Fantastic, like Broadway actor, triple threat, but he is like the tortured, sulky Nightcrawler. I think he does a great job. It's kind of cool that to see him in something kind of like Kelsey Grammer, like to one of the amazing, before all of the MCU, when you have a quote unquote serious actor showing up like in a comic book movie was a big deal, and to see him as something, like he's kind of a rock star in his own milieu, and to come to movies and be Nightcrawler, he did a fantastic job in it. So loved it.
Very nice.
Yeah, I really liked Alan Cumming as Nightcrawler, and that was actually the movie that got my wife. That's now her favorite X-Man is Nightcrawler, because she loved Alan Cumming in that role. So she thought he was just fantastic. I love him too. He's such a fantastic actor.
Nice.
So I put us on number 4.
Number 4, man. What's up?
Daphne Keane and Logan as X-23.
Nice.
She just, to me, like, I thought she was doing. I was like, okay, this young lady's doing a really good job keeping up with Hugh Jackman. But there's that moment in the pickup halfway through the movie where she just loses her shit at him, and I was like, whoa! I'm like getting chills thinking about it. Like, this is you could see Logan's rage coming out of her in this moment, and she just owns this whole thing. And then and just seeing how much she was able to keep up with the other actors on screen. She looks like the role. She portrays the character well. It's not a character that I know and love that much. I don't really know X-23 too well, and she's actually known as Wolverine now, which is great. But I thought she was just amazing. And just, how do you steal a movie from Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart? You put her in the movie. So I just thought she was just fantastic. Loved her.
And what's amazing, and actually we'll segue, because we joke and say there's a reason we do the show. I've got a tie for number 4, and she's one of them.
Nice.
And what I will say is, if you remember, we played it on the air when we in my award show after Logan. Donald doesn't care for it as much as I do. I played her screen test, because that scene, she ad-libbed it. The Spanish is not in the script, and she just went off in the screen test half in Spanish, and when it was over, she thought she did something wrong, and man goes, no, you're going to do that on film. And I guess they showed the clip to Patrick Stewart. Here's the little girl we're thinking about for X-23. And Patrick Stewart was like, you need to hire her immediately. That was incredible. Which is just a great fucking story about that scene. And she did great. My tie, I have a couple underdogs in here, and I did it deliberately because I think a couple of other, she and another Wolverine character out of a really forgotten movie needs some love. I thought Liv Schreiber did Sabretooth some fucking justice finally. The first dude was there for dressing and have something for Wolverine to bounce off of once. It wasn't much to it. I thought he did great. And that movie's got issues, and I get it. I don't think it's the heaping pile of bullshit. I get all the Deadpool stuff, but don't forget, everyone retcons everything. Deadpool wasn't a glimmer in anybody's eye back then. Nobody even knew who he was. He was certainly not mainstream or in every household. So I get the problems with the film, but I thought he did great, and he plays a creepy bad guy really, really fucking well. So
definitely.
Anyway, just a little up.
Love to hate him as Sabretooth for sure.
Yeah. Anyway, all right, number 4, Donald.
I'm just sad. I didn't know we could do ties. So, man.
Oh, it's what you make
we say. It's my show. Fuck you. I don't know. we have no rules. We break our rules all the time because whatever.
Exactly.
It's my list. Shut up.
I love
exactly.
it.
Anyway, all right, Donald, go for it.
My number 4, and hopefully this doesn't break the rules, but it's from Deadpool 2, which is a Fox X-Men adjacent, right? Domino, played by actress Zazie Bates, is how I found out she pronounces her name. So, I had no clue at all about the actress or the character, and she sold me on being a fan. Like, I just instantly fan of the character, fan of the actress, and I want to see more. I don't know if we're going to get to of Domino, but she was by all means one of the biggest highlights of that movie. So,
yeah, what happened to the X-Force movie they were going to do? Did it get canned after the merger or something? I don't remember. I don't know.
At least delayed. Let's put it that way.
I love the conversation with her. It's luck's not a power. Oh, it totally is. No, let's say it's not. No, it totally is. No, it's not. The whole thing's great. And then she's the only one that survives.
Exactly.
And they parachute out of the plane.
And she's just like, there's a wind advisory, but she's just coasting down. It's fine. Oh yeah, the convoy's right below me. I'm good. What's up?
That whole scene just killed me, as it killed most of them. I was like,
Sugar Bear.
Great.
It was great. Oh man. All right, number 3. Number 3, Brev.
Liev Schreiber from X-Men Origins Wolverine as Sabretooth. I think it was perfect casting. I do not like this movie. I love the opening credits of this movie a lot. The opening credits are fantastic. But for me, it's when Liev Schreiber's on screen, the movie is much better. He is just absolutely a psychopathic killer. And I think he just oozes Sabretooth. You could tell he really got into this character and wanted to have fun. Probably watched Hugh Jackman's performance several times, said, okay, I know what to do here. I got this guy. And I love Sabretooth in that movie. So.
The scene that he's the creepiest is, I don't remember the guy's name, the guy that could control all the lights and electronic equipment with his mind. And he goes into his trailer and they both know he's there to kill him. And the scene is tense, but it's calm. He's just walking around talking and he's going to kill him. That was such a good scene. I love it.
It just, when I read the casting, I was like, this is genius. He's going to be awesome. Man, this movie's going to rule.
Well, his part of it did.
Yeah, I get its problems. It's got good stuff in it, and there's good moments, scenes, character here and there. But I mean, I get it. The end it goes off the rails, and I totally understand.
Yeah, but he's great. He is fantastic.
My number 3, I got to go with Famke Janssen as Jean Grey in the original series. Past the big couple, I thought she was probably the best. I thought she carried that character. I totally believed her. And it was the first glimpse we got at the X-Men, so you don't know how it's going to be. It was the first Marvel real big giant thing after Blade. Blade was successful and in the middle of its trilogy, and they did this. But I thought she did just fantastic. And I even thought I know X3 gets the least amount of love from the first 3, but I even thought she handled the Phoenix stuff, and they handled that whole thing really, really well. I thought she could do sweet and oh my God, help me, all the way to creepy and fucking evil, and someone better take her out and everything in between. So anyway, she is my number 3.
Yeah, she was really good.
Cool.
She was my only issue with her casting is and I think this is more on James Marsden, is I didn't buy that they were together.
Yeah, they didn't really try to sell it either.
Yeah,
they didn't take a lot of time. I mean, there's that one stay away from my girl scene, but you saw more between Scott and Sophie Turner's version in the previous film.
Right.
So, now when I see it, I've got that basis in my head and it works a little bit better, but you're right. They didn't even attempt to set that whole thing up. No. And it was hard because you're trying to create a love triangle with Wolverine in here. And I don't even think they set up the other side.
No, I think Scott had more charisma or chemistry with Wolverine than Jean did in some cases, or than he did with Jean.
It's Hugh Jackman. I mean, he's just man pretty.
Exactly.
So,
I mean, my wife better watch out if I ever come in contact with him. But yeah,
you're number 3, dude.
My number 3. Moving on is a tie. Brev, it's a tie between.
Okay.
My reason for the tie is because they're both actresses who played Storm, Halle Berry and Alexander Shipp. I think that Halle Berry's, casting as Storm, I thought she did great. She's definitely Halle Berry, but less, Aurora Monroe in some respects. But at the same time, I thought that she did exactly what was asked of her and expected of her as far as the movies went. And I every time she was on screen, it rocked. So I love that, and I think she did a great job with that. And then Alexander Shipp being cast she kind of does a Halle Berry, and then takes it up a notch from there to be more believable as the character. And so I love them both. So.
Well, Halle Berry gives the most memorable line in the whole franchise, right?
Which one?
I don't remember.
Do you know what happens to a toad when it's struck by lightning?
Oh, right. That's right. Same thing against everything else.
It's great stuff. Yeah, there's this great. It's a takeout. It's an outtake. But in Days of Future Past, when she kisses Hugh Jackman, because I guess Wolverine and Storm are together at this point in time. There's this great moment as a takeout where they kiss, and then Halle Berry pulls away and just starts cheering like, woo! It's cute on screen. It's like, yeah. All right,
nice.
cool.
Love it.
Number 2, Brev.
Number 2. Well, I even got a little fun thing to go with it. My number 2 is definitely this young lady right here.
Oh, there she is.
The Queen's Gambit herself. I thought Anna Taylor-Joy was perfect as Illyana. I could not imagine a better or stronger Illyana or performance. She looks like Illyana from the comic books. She acts like her for the most part. She's a little meaner, and then she is just perfect as this young woman who's going through a lot of shit, but she's trying to block it out and trying to protect herself in every way she can. And I love her in it. Again, this was the moment when I was like, wow, this casting is perfect. This is exactly who I would put in this role. And I thought she just nails it.
Nice. Yeah. We're going to be talking about her a lot.
Yes,
in the
definitely.
next couple hours, I bet.
Yep.
My number 2 is, it might be an upset, but I don't know. And to me, not. These are just my favorite. It's all good. Some are here for different reasons, but Evan Peters as Quicksilver is dope as fuck and funny
Nice.
as fuck. And his scenes become, and partially for him, the way he carries himself in the scenes, partially because of the effects. But every time he's on screen is compelling. And actually in Apocalypse, they started giving him some stuff to play off of, and he wasn't just the quirky comic relief. And the mansion scene is still one of the best scenes ever.
Oh,
in any of these X-Men
Sweet Dreams.
movies. Yeah. But the whole thing's fantastic. But he does a great job. He's got a good balance of all of it. And then he got to show up in WandaVision for a hot sex. Spoilers, kids. But I just got a kick out of him. What a really unexpected, happy surprise as that new cast kind of took off for me. But anyway, so
yeah,
maybe that's an upset. I don't know. But
he was great.
Donald, what about you, man?
My number 2 has been mentioned before. Daphne Keane in Logan as Laura. I mean, what? You guys say it best. You guys like the movie in general way better than I do. Not that I don't like it, but it just it's not up there for me like it is for you all. So, but the movie could have failed and just totally face planted because of that character and that casting decision, and the fact that she pulled it off is. That makes the movie. That makes the rest of the movie. Like the rest of it could have been great, and if she wasn't Daphne Keane doing that, it would have been terrible. So that was the biggest friggin' clutch move for casting that I've seen in a long time. So that goes for her.
I wish we'd seen her in more stuff after that. I know she's gotten some gigs, but they've been definitely smaller.
Exactly.
She was the lead in His Dark Materials.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
Yeah. And she does a really good job. I haven't finished
and
that.
I didn't watch it.
That's a dark. It's a kids series. I've read the books. It's a kids series, allegedly. I guess it's more YA. That show's dark. I mean, it's
in the name, Brev.
Well, that's very good. Very good. Very good.
I've been meaning to check the series out for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting allegory on the dangers of Christianity.
Mm.
So if you're into one of those ones, you go like, okay, let's see what this is about. That's the one. My number 1, I kind of feel like this is cheating, but I also feel like that this is absolutely the only number 1 choice for me. And it's a role that I thought should have garnered him an Academy Award nomination, but it's Ryan Reynolds for Deadpool. I cannot disassociate Ryan Reynolds and Deadpool now. The two of them are inextricably intertwined.
Can I tell you, Brev, interject out of order that he's my number 1 as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a tie for number 1.
Go shock.
Yeah. There was 2 I thought were number 1 for 2 different reasons, and I went, I'll just go throw both in here. So let's go on a Ryan Reynolds kick. Go for it, Brev.
Yeah, he owns it.
It was the role he was meant to play.
Exactly.
Period.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's perfect. And even I even don't dislike him in X-Men Origins Wolverine up until the point when he loses his mouth, because it's like, well, that's part of it. That's what Deadpool.
That's
exactly
the whole point of the character.
So, but even though he's fun up until that point, but I mean, that first movie and even the second one was like, this is perfect. He's everything that we wanted him to be on, from the page to the screen. He's just awesome. And he just owns it. And like you just said, Scott, it's the role he was born to play. And I love the fact that he took on a producer role to make sure that he wasn't stuck in a VX driven suit, that it was a real suit, that Deadpool was really what it was supposed to be, and created and presented in that way. And I just think that he's just awesome. He's just perfect.
The only thing, Donald, I'll let you talk, and then I'll give my kind of tie for it. But what I don't understand is why I don't understand why they haven't touched the property since the merger. I'm sure they've got their plans, but I don't know why they didn't just let that series keep going. That needed a trilogy at least. It made all the money in the world. The second one's just as good as the first one. It's some ways better. I don't know. I don't know why they didn't keep going, but it's not my money.
Right on.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, Scott, you and I kind of talked for X-Men Origins Wolverine that, like, if nothing else, yes, it brought us Deadpool, and yes, it brought us a non-Deadpool at the end, but it brought us Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, and that was his audition that he could lay down. What was it, 10 years later or something for the Deadpool movie? That no, he was made for this role, and he needs to continue with that part of it as the Merc with the mouth, and if he hadn't been cast for X-Men Origins Wolverine, we probably wouldn't have gotten, if we had gotten a Deadpool movie at all, it wouldn't have been him, and that would have been a tragedy. So if there's any good, you want to, even if you shit on the movie completely, which I don't, if there's one thing to bring out of it, it is the fact that we eventually got him as Deadpool in, the right way. So.
Absolutely. My tie for number one is number one for all different reasons, but let's not forget this series made Jennifer Lawrence an A-list star, because she went from First Class to Hunger Games to Silver Linings Playbook, back to back to back. And then she was in Winter's Bone and did great. All good. No, all good. But she launched, and honestly, now that whenever I see Mystique, she did her job, which is, same as McAvoy did, and same as Fassbender did. I don't see the other actor anymore. Only I see both of them together. Yeah. Romain Stamos didn't have a lot of stuff to do with Mystique other than kind of be a badass. Jennifer Lawrence gave her character and gave her an origin, because the First Class is as much her origin as anyone else's. Yeah. And anyway, she's fucking dope and awesome. And I remember when I saw her, I was just like, she's got a career. And then she did Hunger Games, and then the world just went crazy for her, and she's deserved every bit of accolade she's gotten. But anyway, so there you go. Rock on.
Sweet. So who's your tie? Your Deadpool was your other tie for number one?
Yeah. I was like, when I made what I do is I make the list of my faves and I sort them, and I just had trouble like, well, I don't know, I have another honorable mention. No, screw it. They're both number one for different reasons.
I love it.
Because I love it. Damn it.
It's your show. Man. You guys do whatever you want.
Hell yeah.
It's your world. We're just living in it.
Well, this one is your show in many respects. But if you guys are ready, we're going to start talking about the movie we came here to talk about, and kick it around, and Brev can talk about why we're talking about it, because this is all his fucking fault. No, I'm kidding. It's awesome. I was hoping. I was glad for this one, because this one definitely needs the traditional format of the show. But it is time. We're going to talk New Mutants.
What's the last thing you remember, Dani?
He said we had to run.
The reason you survived is because you're a very uncommon girl. You're not alone. Not anymore. Do you know what mutants are? Would anyone like to share their first time? Rain?
I was 13.
I thought it was a dream. I just lost control. Sam?
I started panicking. People got hurt.
Roberto?
My girlfriend had burned her.
Illyana?
I killed 18 men, one by one. This isn't a hospital, it's a cage.
It's important we find out your power so we can help you get better. I saw something I don't think she wanted me to see. I don't think we're here to get better. This place takes your greatest fear and makes you live through it until it kills you. Who's there?
We can get out of this together.
All right. Well, this film was, I mean, we'll talk about it. Of every film that was caught in development hell, I think this one qualifies, unfortunately. And it just due to the state of the world, especially 2 years back, it didn't get it. It didn't have a chance in a lot of regards. But yeah, Brev, we've talked a lot of different kind of movie ideas over the few months, or I don't know, decide when to come on and talk about it. Yeah, you get to introduce this. Why this? Why did you do this to me?
Why did I do this to you? Well, because I'm a glutton for punishment. First of all,
I love the movie.
I love to punish you both. It's actually just because the other choice I had, Scott, was the remake reboot of Friday the 13th that I was trying to be nice to Donald and not do that one. So,
oh yeah,
but you and I be like, you know what? Why don't we just do it? We give Donald a break. So, yeah, no.
Maybe, yeah, we did talk about that. And that's right. We also talked about Once Upon a Time in America a while back.
We need to do that one. We need to do that one because I love that movie, and I don't think that's one necessarily bad movie. I don't know if it's needs defending, but I think people need to be reminded of it.
Yeah,
that's a great film. I landed on this one for a number of reasons. One, when I heard it was coming out, I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be great. Wow. What a great way to like continue the X-Men franchise. Cool. And oh, look at the cast. They look awesome. This is going to be fantastic. And I saw the first trailer. I was like, oh, this is going to be like a horror movie meets a science, meets a teen drama, meets a superheroes. Wow, what a genius idea. This is going to be so cool. And then it kind of went through like, oh, we got to push it back because do reshoots and da-da-da-da. I was like, okay, well, that's fine. That happens. Shit happens, right? I get it.
Right.
Nothing's ever, I'm in software. Nothing's ever perfect. So I get it. But then when, like you said, Scott, then here comes the merger where Disney buys out all the Fox's films. And I was like, oh, okay, well, are we going to see it? And then Disney was like, yeah, we'll put it out there right as the pandemic starts. And I'm like, oh, that means that they're killing it. They're done. They're not interested. And that's, I think, what happened. I think this was a victim, like you said, Scott, of kind of that studio exec sort of constant reshoots. And that was put out in the pandemic. I know it's not a perfect movie. I don't pretend that it's perfect. It does have some issues. But I really enjoy it. And when I finally got to watch it, I remember I bought it on Vudu and then I sat with my iPad and watched it in bed. I was like, oh, this is great. So I didn't want the TV as long as I didn't want to wake anybody else up, but I had my headphones on watching this thing. I was captivated from the word go to the end. I really enjoyed it. I know that it's a smaller film. And I think that that's one of the aspects about it that probably the people that did finally see it have some quibbles about the fact that this movie is not about saving the world. Mm-hmm. This movie is about saving your own soul. And I think that doesn't resonate in a society that's used to having to rewrite timelines in order to fix things or, stop Loki's invasion of New York and stuff like that. Or, I think this is just a smaller movie. about these people and about growing up. And I dug that. But I grew up in a time frame, and as did you guys, and a lot of your listeners, grew up in a time period where those movies were acceptable. We watched 16 Candles. We watched Can't Buy Me Love. We watched those sorts of movies, or the small, Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street types, where it doesn't have to be the biggest story in the world to still be a good story.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that Lucas and Spielberg talked recently, a few years ago, I guess, about the death of the movies. And their thought was, because things are going to get so much bigger, it's going to be unsustainable. And if that's true, which I don't know if it is true, I think it's like everything has to be a spectacle, which is funny coming from Spielberg and Lucas. But I think the smaller that means we need to give love to the smaller stories. We need to appreciate some of the ones that are not as big, larger than life, which is interesting to say about a superhero movie. But that's one of the reasons I wanted to do this as well, because I feel like this movie didn't get the love it deserved. And I really felt like it was much better than a lot of the critics out there were saying it was.
Actually, let me lend to this conversation, and Donald and Brev, you can see what you think of this. There were never any reshoots. So after the movie came out, so here's the quote from the director. Everyone said we did reshoots. We've never done reshoots. And I will tell you this, if there hadn't been a merger, I'm sure we would have done reshoots the same way every movie does. But we didn't even get a chance to do that because by the time the merger was done and everything was settled, everybody was older and nobody cared anymore.
Yep. That's what I heard as well. I thought that was really strange. But by the time that they would have gotten the green light to do reshoots, everybody was a couple of years older, so they couldn't do reshoots at that point.
Right. Yeah, the cast was older. Yeah.
But Scott, we even on the buzz, like that was the whole point to as far as we knew in 2017 or 2018 to the delays was reshoots, but it was apparently the deal was already in talks back then, and for whatever reason it just they were hesitant. Fox was hesitant to let the movie go out because of the merger pending, which was, I don't know. I can't wrap my head around that, but it is an interesting kind of a thing to come to light. I did hear, it was something on IMDb, and I couldn't confirm it elsewhere, that maybe like 26 minutes were cut from the movie, but I'm not sure that that's accurate either. But have you heard anything like that?
I haven't heard about deleted scenes. I don't know, Brev, have you?
I mean, there's some scenes that are in the trailers that aren't in the movie, but that happens come on. Rogue One is the biggest, one of the most recent big.
But that was reshoots, so yeah,
that's true. But and I think this movie could have used maybe another 10 minutes to live in it a little while longer for me. But
that's what I think too. Yeah.
And this movie also suffered from, and you guys talk about this a lot. Somebody said it sucked, so now everybody thinks it sucks.
Yeah.
And it got that bad rap. And there's a difference between making Schindler's List or The Godfather and making Chairman of the Board. And there is this part, and there are these movies in here which are good but not great, and good and not bad. And I think this fits into that realm. But I think everybody now has to have some sort of, this is either the greatest masterpiece since the invention of the film camera, or this is the biggest pile of fucking dog shit that we've ever seen. And instead of saying, yeah, it's a good movie. Is it great? No, but it's certainly not terrible. So don't make it out to be terrible.
Yep.
And I think this is where this movie slides in. I put it in kind of the middle of my rankings of the X-Men franchise, or the Fox X-Men franchise, I should say, overall. Because I think that's where it deserves to be. I do not think it's the worst, but I also don't think it's Logan or Days of Future Past. So
right.
Yeah.
Days of Future Past gets way not enough love, and it's held in high regard, and it still doesn't get enough love.
It's not remembered often enough in the conversations. When people think of it, it's always talked in good light. For this movie, I think that expectations play a lot into it, and people were number one, as movies get delayed, then instantly the thought is, well, there must be something wrong with the movie, right? And so it builds the narrative about itself that way through no fault of its own. It just was like, boy, if it's getting delayed, it must suck. and they must be working on it. And so then you expect a Franken film or something else and there were plenty of those going around with Justice League and things like that around that time. But so it was no surprise that was the narrative. But also it had gained this idea. I mean, it was literally marketed as the first Marvel horror movie, right? And I think that it comes through as a for me at least, not big into the horror genre. I obviously see that it's a horror movie, and yet at the same time, there's so much that's not, that doesn't lend itself to it being, a capital H horror movie, because of it's so much a teen drama coming of age, that, and then you've got the escape from the asylum aspect of it, a thriller. So. But there's so much YA in here that I think if you're looking for just straight up horror and adult comic book horror, I think you would I think it would be natural to come away disappointed from this movie, because that's not what it was trying to do. Screw what the marketing folks were saying about it being a horror movie. It's not just a horror movie. It's not, and it didn't sell me on it, but at the same time, what would have sold me is this is a coming of age. Like how do teens who have had bad things done to them and or have done bad things themselves come to grips with that as they're growing into adulthood. And I think that's really what this movie is about. And as such, I think it does a great job with it. This is something that my son doesn't really have the patience for this movie, but I really wish that he would, because I think that it's got some good lessons for any teenager and frankly, a lot of adults to learn. So, that's what I'll start with. So,
yeah. The other thing I'll start with, bro, I think you guys hit on it. Here's what I think I've heard from people. Horror fans didn't get a horror movie. Comic fans didn't get a traditional comic movie. So neither of them fully, completely understood or got what they expected. The trailer said it's kind of horror, and it is in many respects. And honestly, it's darker than a lot of people kind of realize. We'll talk, but but I understood what it was being, and I understood. In fact, I got to talk about some of the opening sequences, which are interesting, but I wonder if that's part of it, that it doesn't fit neatly into anything.
Right.
And that's what people just have trouble with. And I do think Marvel, and I've said it before, I think Marvel, as many movies as they churned out and as successful as they were in getting what people call normies into the theater worried about superheroes, it does skew what you think your idea of a superhero movie should be. And any deviation of it gets people, wait, what? DC movies look different. These Fox ones look different. And I just think people's palate wouldn't tolerate it much anymore. I don't know. I could be full of shit, but
I think you're absolutely right. I think, and a lot of criticism I read and listened to also, like you said, you both just said, it's like, this movie isn't either of those. And so it doesn't lean into either to the degree that any of those fans would like. I want the shit scared out of me. It's creepy. There's some scary moments, but it's never like, oh my God, it's not it. Right. And it's not superheroics like an X-Men movie or an Avengers movie. Mm-hmm. And this is the danger, I think, when with this Marvel Studios has set the standard for superhero movies going forward. And when you watch a movie before them, it's significantly different. Even watching the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies,
right?
There's a significant difference between this type of superhero movie and then what we get later. I love both, but there's a difference. And I think they were trying to I think Josh Boone and his co-writer were trying to do something different with this movie. And I truly think if they had put it in the theater when it was done,
mm-hmm.
I think it would have done well. I don't think it would have been fantastic, but I think it still would have done well.
It probably would have at least made its money back, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, again, it got killed by the pandemic. It's yet another thing. But I also think Disney was like, fuck it, we don't care. Just put it out there. And
see what we can get out of it. Yeah.
They abandoned it. Yeah. And it didn't even make, I think it made almost half. I think it was made
a little more. I saw 40 million out of 60 million or something like that.
Yeah, there you go.
I saw it in the theaters for what it's worth, and I came out satisfied. Like, I'm like, oh, well, that's not what I was expecting, but I really liked what I got, and I wish that I already knew at that point we weren't getting more, and I was like, man, I really wish we were getting more out of this. It was kind of like Dark Phoenix, right? It's like this is cut off before its time, and that's a darn shame. So,
yep. Well, if we're ready to walk through it, and anytime, guys, stop me, back me up, slow down, whatever we need to do. It's all good. But yeah, you guys ready? All right,
let's do it.
Cool. All right, silence is confirmation. What's that saying? I can't remember what it is. Something like that.
Silence no, that doesn't work.
Something like that. So the very first scene is Dani wakes up from sleep. Her dad rousts her. And, well, there's a narrative about two bears that you wrestle with inside you, the good bear and the bad bear, and that. So she says it. She finishes it at the end. But right after she kind of says this, as the credits roll, her dad rousts her out of bed. Everyone around town's running around screaming. And he gets her out in the middle of the woods, tells her to stay. He's going to go back and help people. And then something growls, chases her. She gets thrown, knocked out, wakes up in the hospital. But here's where I got to say, and Brev, I'm really curious if you had the same thing. I know these characters. I know the comics. I immediately knew who she was. I immediately knew what was happening. I know her powers. And as soon as he said Dani, I went, well, I now understand what this is. It was the comic book knowledge I had in my head spoiled the reveal in the first 20 seconds for me, because I just know it's not anyone's fault. And the movie still executed everything very brilliantly. I just knew. I know what her powers are, and I'm like, oh, it's Dani. Oh, there's mysterious shit. Oh, wait, she was still asleep. She was just asleep? Okay. I put it together so fast. I didn't tell my family. It was one of the first movies in the pandemic you could watch that kind of got released. It was supposed to go to the theater. It didn't, and you have movie night, right? I didn't say anything to my family. My son picked up on it later, but I don't know. Did either of you, Brev, you know the comics real freaking well. Did you pick up on it really fast?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. I was like, at first, just knowing who the cast was, I was like, okay, that's Danielle Moonstar. This can become Mirage. She takes people's fears and makes them into a reality.
Yep.
So this is the Demon Bear saga. Okay, cool. Now, slightly different in the comics, and that's fine. I get it. They couldn't do this. And because one of the things I love about this movie is how small the cast is.
Mm-hmm.
Was like 7 or 8 actors, and that's it.
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. I love that. So it condenses it down. But anyway, so yes, Scott, to your point, so the mystery through line, I knew what was going on. My curiosity is how do the rest of the characters react to it, and when do they find out what's really happening? And what does this mean for what Dr. Reyes is trying to do? What does Dani represent now? So
right. All right.
That's cool.
Yeah, so I had
no clue going into it what any of these characters were. Honestly, I knew it was a dragon puppet, and that was literally it. And it sounded really weird that somebody named Illyana would have a dragon puppet named Lockheed, because Lockheed doesn't sound like a dragon name to me. I had no freaking clue. And by the time
it would have been weirder if they called her Bowen, but
boing. I didn't even I had to look up afterward what the Essex Corporation was, because I'm like, I don't get, and I don't, I guess I would have had to have seen Logan by the time I'd seen this, but I didn't pick up the connections with that, which I did these last few times that I've been rewatching it. So, which enriched the movie a lot for me, I think. So, I think for me, at least, no knowledge going in was not a huge hurdle, but it was a hurdle, and knowing more definitely helps. So I don't know if that impacted any viewers that thought poorly of this movie, so.
Sure. Real quick, just so everybody knows, let's go through this so people kind of understand if you're not aware, because they never use people's superhero names in the film, because they aren't really those people yet. So Maisie Williams is Rain Sinclair. Her name's Wolfsbane. And what's really interesting is she didn't join the movie until she talked about the religious stuff that her character deals with, because I guess Maisie had a very strict religious upbringing. And she's like, okay, now I want to do it because I totally connect. And I totally understand this entire thing. That's great. Anya Taylor-Joy, Illyana, Magic with a K is her name. Dani Moonstar's Mirage. Sam is Cannonball. Roberto it's Sunspot, right? Yeah, yep. Sunspot. And then I don't think Alice Braga's character is anything real. I tried to find it. Is it?
It's Dr. Cecilia Reyes. She showed up in the late 90s, early aughts as a minor character. They tried to make her a big deal in the comics, and she's a really good supporting cast. And
but isn't she the reason I was thrown? But I vaguely remember, isn't she good in the comic?
Yes, she's a good character. She's a good guy in the comic books.
All right, okay, just making sure I'm not crazy.
Yeah, no, you're not crazy, and she was never a big character, not like these other five.
She didn't have a superhero name.
I don't think she ever got a superhero name. Her character was reluctant to be a superhero. In fact, I don't think she even considers herself a superhero. She's more of a mutant that helps out the X-Men. She was a trauma surgeon, who discovered her powers at a very inopportune time. And that's a whole rabbit trail. If you want to get down there, I will more than happy to run down that trail, but we don't have to.
Grab parts of it when her powers manifest later. It might make some sense. Sure,
but I will say, since we're talking about the cast, there is something that I do want to discuss, is I think this turned a lot of people off to the movie as well. The cast, I think, does a really good job. I have no problems with any of the performances. Specifically, the three female leads, I think, are dynamite. I love them. I could not imagine a better choice. My issue comes in, and I think this is important, and this is a discussion that is important and warranted for this film, is the casting of Sunspot. The character of Sunspot in the comic books is a black teenager. And when he gets his powers, he becomes fully black, like the color black. He's Portuguese, but he's a black Portuguese. Oh. And the representation of that power is, and when he's created in the 80s, is to say that it's black rage. Because whenever he gets pissed off, that's when it occurs. That's when he becomes black and starts pounding the shit out of people. Right?
Yep.
Super strength, all the rest of that. No invulnerability, which is interesting. So the fact that, what this did is this created a black character for black fans to relate to see themselves, to represent themselves in that book. Maybe not personality wise, but at least, okay, I can see me in there. The casting of a non-black actor, the guy does just fine. He's great. He does a good performance. No digs on him. He's fine. Casting a non-black actor, though, removes the representation of a black person in this story, which I think what I've heard of and research on is very much it upset a lot of people, because it's like, but now I can't see myself in that role. That Sunspot was always one of me. It would be like recasting Storm as a Hispanic. It's like, but that's not me. Storm's black. Roberto's always been black. Why is he now not black? And I think that's important, and that turned a lot of people off, and I can see that. And this goes back to my thought is these characters, and they're created in a certain way. Yes, a lot of them were created by old white Jewish guys. But as you get further into the decades, right, as you get into the 70s and 80s and 90s. They're created for a reason, and they're created for a way for people to see themselves in the book. And it's important that I think that that's represented that way in the characters and the actors that we cast. Just like we wouldn't want Monica Rambeau to be a white woman, right, from WandaVision. We need to see ourselves in there. And I think that's to get kids involved as well. So when I'm a little kid, if I'm a kid who's Hispanic and I pick up one and I see myself represented as a Hispanic character, I want to go to the comic books and see the same thing. And if I'm reading the comic books, I want to see it transferred to the big screen so I can see myself. So again, long way to say, I thought the actor playing Sunspot did a good job. I wish they had gone with somebody who was actually black to play the character, because I think that that's important to have that. Cecilia Reyes is also black, but she's also a lesser known character. I can kind of get I can see what they're trying to do there. Reyes sounds like is a very Hispanic last name, so I can see where they're going for, but Sunspot's been around for 40 years. We know what he looks like. We should have gone a little bit closer to that.
It's interesting you say that. I mean, I've danced around a lot of it, but I've got my opinions of some of that stuff. However, I have always said with other stuff, you do not have to race and gender swap stuff because you have plenty of characters that are good, original. They already look like whatever you want them to look like. They already represent whatever you want. Just go grab one of those. And it is interesting that so casting a black actor in this is exactly what I would personally advocate for. Yeah, he's already a great black superhero. He's already there. He's great. He's badass. Let's let other people learn who he is and learn his powers and go crazy. You don't have to replace other stuff. Do this. Grab Sunspot. That's exactly what I've been asking Marvel and DC to do rather than jacking with things, because I've always felt like, well, if his identity is important because he looks like that, then why isn't someone else's? And I agree. I think they should have done that. Did it throw me? I will say, Brev, what I expected to happen, and maybe because we didn't get the trilogy, it didn't. Yeah. I wondered if his skin tone was going to change down the road as he more adopted his powers, did something. I wasn't sure how they're going to explain it. As it is, they never did. They didn't do that. It's not what they were going to do. It's not that. It's just a different ethnicity, and fair enough, I guess. And you're right. He did fine. And actually, I thought they represented his powers pretty well. However, you're not wrong. And I it's exactly what I advocate for, and say, yeah, do that. You don't have to do that. Don't do A, do B. B's over here. He's already sitting over here. Go grab him. Yeah. So I'm that's all I mean. Right. Like I just find some of it unnecessary because I can't find it anymore. I'm so mad. I used to have DC and Marvel's encyclopedias, which are huge, just thick books that were so badass with every character in it. There's just a gabillion of all kinds of cool shit to go grab and, all that fun stuff. But
and to your point, Scott, is if you want to, if you like what you're saying is, and this, we're so far down the rabbit trail now. If you want to have,
you want to talk about that.
If you want to have a character, if you want to have representation in your stories, in your movies, there are tons of characters from which to choose. Grab one of those, but don't race swap, because then those characters. It's hard. Now when the kid goes see the movie, they want to go buy the book. Well, how come they're white in the book, but they were black on screen? Yeah, I don't understand. Like, where's my hero? Yeah, which is why I think a character like Miles Morales is so awesome, because they're able to level him up like that, and it's like, okay, cool. Now we're gonna keep him the same, and I just think, excuse me, I'm burping here. I just think it's important, and I think it's important for the integrity of the character, and it's important for the enjoyment and the understanding of the audience, to have that. Agreed. So. Anyway.
No, agreed. It is terrible that we're not going to get the trilogy we were going to, and we'll talk about that, because they were going to do stuff with these characters, and there's even a deleted scene about Sunspot they're going to have. In fact, it goes to your... we can talk about it here really, really quick. So Brev, are you aware of the deleted scene that they were going to do pickups on and never got a chance to? Do you know what it's going to be?
No.
And Antonio Banderas is his dad getting killed.
Yes.
It was going to be that.
Interesting.
And they were going to do something with his character on, which is great, which is awesome. I really liked him. A couple of scenes in here are my favorite. They did great. I wish I'd give him a little bit to do, but I understand it's really Dani's movie. Yeah. And in a way, the three female leads really carry the film. And that's for, all four of them actually, which makes sense to the story. That's what the story is about and all that stuff. So, anyway, you guys ready to do the first scene?
Let's do it.
We're only 2 hours in. Let's do the first scene, right?
Let's do the first scene. Well, an hour was all our other playing around. Well, anyway, this is how Dani wakes up. So she wakes up strapped to a hospital bed. There's someone in the vent above her for 2 seconds that she thinks she sees. She scoots the bed over to the door and is confronted by Dr. Reyes, and then tells her what happened to her village. Dani's not buying it. But then she explains why she didn't get hurt, what mutants are. But this is I want to talk about it. It's a smart scene, but here we go.
Hello? Hello? Let me out of here!
Relax, Dani. I'm on my way to you.
Where am I? Where is my family?
I know you're scared, but you're safe now. If I could come in, I'll explain. Would that be all right? Hi, Dani. I'm Dr. Reyes. If you take a seat, I'll free your hand. Dani, what I'm about to tell you is going to be very difficult. An F5 tornado touched down on your reservation.
No.
You're the sole survivor of a terrible tragedy.
No. was growling. Something was chasing us.
What? Sometimes trauma makes us remember things that aren't real. Here. I think this may be yours.
Why didn't I just die with them? Why me?
Survivor's guilt is a common reaction to trauma. We look for reasons. Most of the time, we find none. But the reason you survived is because you're a very uncommon girl. Your reservation was wiped off the face of the earth, but you made it out with barely a scratch. Do you know what mutants are? Mutation most often occurs in puberty. You might spend the first 13 years of your life relatively normal. And just like that, you come of age and discover your true nature.
What's my true nature?
We'll have to figure that out together.
Then how do you know I'm a mutant?
The man I work for has a way of recognizing new mutants the moment their condition reveals itself. That's how we discovered you and your fellow patients. You're not alone, Dani. This is a facility for young mutants like yourself. Teens who need some extra care before they can go on to live healthy adult lives. There's some warm clothes, toiletries.
How long do I have to stay here?
Until I decide you're not a danger.
Danger to who?
Yourself. You've been through a lot. Get some rest, okay? We'll talk more in the morning.
Dr. Reyes, there's really no one left.
But you're in a safe place now. Nothing can hurt you in here, Dani. Good night.
So, I thought this was well done and executed fairly quickly. You don't have to have seen any of the other X-Men movies. You don't have to understand anything else. They've set the entire stage for everything you need to know for this thing. And because Dani doesn't know, the exposition makes sense because you have to explain it to her. She doesn't even know what she is. So I thought that aspect was really fantastic. It was simple, but like you say, Brev, sometimes the simplest stuff's the most effective. But the only other thing I caught from the thing was I always red flag when people talk like that, and it has nothing to do with politics. Parents can talk like this. Abusive relationships can talk like this. Your boss can talk like this. Any kind of authoritarian's like, well, when are we going to do a thing? When I say. Okay, cool. When are you going to say? When I say. Meaning, I'll move the goalposts as it so suits me. I'm not going to tell you where the line is crossed before the thing happens. In this case, get out. Because I don't know what it is, because I'm making it up as we go along, so I can't tell you. I don't know. Hey, son, I'll let you go spend the night at your friend's house when I decide it's okay. Like every level of stuff can do this. I'm not talking about any one thing. So Dani red flagged that, and later Dr. Reyes uses very classic techniques of authoritarianism to get them to stay, and we'll talk about it get good, but yeah, that was like, oh, wait, like that's my immediate red flag goes, all right, you're full of shit. Like all you have to say is when you pass this test that we'll administer when your treatment's done, you're out. Whatever it is, just tell me where the line is. I remember I was in a job review and I got a really good score, but I didn't get the greatest score. And I said, well, how do I get that score? And my boss goes, well, that's for people that kind of walk on water. It's hard to hit that. I said, that's fine. Where's the water?
Right.
I don't care how hard it is to hit, but tell me where it is. And they couldn't. So I'm like, okay, so no one is ever going to get this score.
Right.
I get it. Yeah. So it's the same thing. Anyway, what do you guys think of this whole thing?
I think that, I tend to agree with you, although I didn't get the same red flag, but one of the things that I thought it was interesting was she didn't even try to like give her hope. Like, are they really all gone? Yeah. Well, they're not all gone. Everybody is not all gone. You're still alive. Like, you could instead of feeding into the despair, like one of the bears, you could have fed into hope, the other bear, and said, look, you are still alive, and that's what matters at the moment. We want to make sure that we take care of you and that you can live on, whatever, right? Like, you can go on from there as far as legacy or representing, making sure that the others didn't die in vain, whatever. But that didn't happen. She didn't go anywhere near it. She's like, yeah, that's it. You're screwed. You're all alone. And that's a rough thing. The other thing that I wanted to bring up, we kind of figure this out later or kind of identify it later, but everybody in here, all the teens have killed someone, either intentionally or unintentionally, by the onset of their powers, as they're coming into their own. And that's why they're here, really, is because they're an immediate danger, which is either a bad thing or a good thing, depending on who you are. So,
right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I had several thoughts. Like, the first one is, you guys have been on the show long enough times, and everybody that knows me knows I like to start on action. Start a story on action. This movie does it. I mean, yeah, you get the title credits, you get Dani's kind of little short little monologue, and then boom, we are in. And it's like, how do the characters respond to the action in which they're being placed? I loved the fact that we didn't get oh, look, Dani has a nice little life on the reservation, and she's doing these things with her family. Nope, fuck that. We start with the tornado, right? So,
right.
Which we all know is not. But I thought that was great. Something else that really resonated with me, and this took me a couple of times to get to when I was watching this, is if you compare and contrast our point of view characters from the New Mutants and the first X-Men film. So the point of view characters being Logan and Dani, and their introductions to the world of mutants, if you will, and to this new school that they're going to be in, and how different it was. Logan, they're both strapped to a table, but Logan's only has stuff on him in order to make sure his vitals are okay. But he's seen as still trustworthy. Professor X is okay with him, right?
Right.
Whereas Dani is locked down. Okay? There's a school full of children, and yet Charles is still like, no, it's okay. Just, he's fine. It's going to be okay. Charles welcomes Logan in. Mm-hmm. Dani there's only like, 5 other people there at that institution?
Well, her number is 203. Yeah. That's how many came before her that have been run through this house, right?
But there's not that many right now.
That's right. Yep.
So there's only a handful of people. So who's Dani really going to hurt? Granted, we see later, but but there's not a trust of this little girl, but there is a trust of this other guy. And I think that's interesting to see the difference between how the two characters are shown this world that they're about to enter into. And I think it goes on to the kind of the last thing, so what Donald was talking about, the difference between being kind and being nice. I think that Charles is kind. He welcomes Logan into his home with his students, with the other X-Men. He welcomes him nicely. He's kind about it. Reyes is nice, but not kind.
Right.
Everything she says is, yes, it's to the point, and I'm a nice person, but that doesn't mean anything that I'm saying or doing is with any sort of love or intention of being kind to you.
Right.
And I love
Donald talking about that. Yeah.
I love that dichotomy between the two opening crossing the threshold, if you will, of those two movies, and how that kind of portrays. And I think that really deepens that sort of teen trauma that the movie is a lot about, is about the scariness of, I'm out of control and I don't know what to do. And the person, I don't have somebody that can tell me everything's going to be okay. Instead, I'm being caged. I'm being locked. I'm being, as you said, Scott, the goalpost is going to keep moving and I don't know what to do. And that's just going to cause me later anxiety.
And where this movie gets to is the coming of age and like a teenager story. And it doesn't really matter whether you are a quote unquote good kid or a bad kid. You might be an honor student and still feel caged in your house. Like your parents might be awesome.
Right.
And you still are not allowed to do everything that you want to do. And or if you do everything that you want to do, then your parents are probably especially not very nice or kind. So one way or another, like, coming into your own and coming of age is you're under authority one way or another, and any of that, like, you have to wrestle with it, because it goes from being, you go from being a child where authority is comforting to no, I can act on my own authority now. Thank you very much. In parts, in measures here and there as it grows, and as your own maturity grows, and that's what this movie is illustrating, right? And it's talking about a specific group of people, but at the same time, it's relatable. Like, I definitely didn't have anything related to these folks, upbringings or situations, and yet I could totally relate to it, even though I'm, 30 years on from where they are. So,
yeah. And both of you combined both of what you said. Had she woken up at the X Mansion, well, guess which bear's going to get fed, and guess what's not going to happen? Yep. She's not going to kill everybody in her sleep. She's not going to, she's traumatized, so there's probably going to be some things. Charles can probably help with it, do all that stuff. I'm sure he could get in her head and fix it, whatever he needed to do. But yeah, because remember, they're trying to mold them into assassins is what they're gonna try to do, right? Eventually, see if they can be controlled, blah, blah, blah. But you're all correct. Well, we start next with a group session, which is great. And these are really, they're conducive to storytelling and exposition, right? They just, by their very nature of what they are, which is great. But anyway, Rain goes ahead and tells her story. Now, I know who she is. They said Rain. So again, I know what everybody's powers are. So like later when like Roberta calls her doggy, like I already know what it means. Like if you don't know, it's going to work and it's fine. But to your point, Brev, I was more interested in the how do we get there? Like I know the players in the game and I know the powers and I know all that stuff. So we'll focus on the how here. But anyway, nobody else is participating. But she reveals that she was basically told by her priest that she was a witch, and nobody else participates. And then it ends with they ask Illyana she asks Illyana to show her the grounds or tour her or whatever. But I don't know anything on the group session. I just keep moving. You guys can stop me anytime we hit trip on anything that you want to dive deeper on.
Yeah, I felt like it had, like, you could definitely tell Josh Boone had watched One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest a couple of times to try to sort of get that feel with still keeping it with a teen. So I'm not comparing these two films. Don't get me wrong. One is far superior to the other, but I did enjoy it, and I liked how, while the characters' personalities didn't exactly match up with the comic book, that's fine. I'm okay with that. I liked how they worked here, and I thought it worked well. I think in this one scene, you get a lot of who everybody is very early on. You get Sam is very, very shy, demure. And then you've got, Rain's a little more outspoken in this, a little more confident in this version, but, she's also trying to be the good one, like she says later. And then you got Birdo, who has to look nice and has to look good, and, is constantly kind of eyeing the sexy Dani, or sexy Illyana the whole time, who's very aloof. So I don't know. I thought it was a good way to introduce the rest of the characters, rest of the cast in a quick scene. So yeah, and kind of what these sessions are going to be like going forward. One thing I did like, I did notice this, and in the bookshelf behind Reyes is a copy of Watership Down. And that's a great book, and it's a wonderful story about a group of, for those who don't know, a group of rabbits that are moved from their home that have to go find a new home. They have to learn to work together. And I felt like that. I was like, when I saw that, I was like, okay, I think I know where this is going. Because that's not, as you guys have said many times, stuff isn't in the frame just for happenstance, just for because that's a deliberate choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially in this movie. They do a lot of that with the Buffy episodes and things like that.
Yeah. So I love the fact that was a subtle hint that, spoiler alert, that they're going to lose their home, but they're going to unite together to go find a new one. So,
yep. No, that's awesome. A good catch. I did not catch that. I love Watership Down. It's actually, I've tried to get my kids to read it, but my daughter's trapped in the high school. We're reading The Great Gatsby. It's the most boring book in the history of the planet. Like, we're in that phase. So, I get it. So Illyana takes Dani on a tour, but she talks to the puppet more than she talks to Dani. She's really fucking pissy and defensive and bitter. Now, in the comics, I remember Lockheed not a puppet, but a stuffed toy or just a toy. I like that it was a puppet so she can interact with it directly, a little more directly. But what is it in the comic, Brev? I forgot.
In the
specifically.
So in the comic, it's a dragon. It's a small dragon.
Right.
He's maybe about 2 feet long. That Kitty Pryde finds when the X-Men are on the Brood's homeworld. The Brood of the space aliens is rip off xenomorphs, but they're still fantastic. And Lockheed smuggles himself back onto the X-Men on their way back in, and he's Kitty Pryde's little pet, basically. And he's friends with her, and he's friends with Illyana. And that was one of the shocking moments. I was like, oh, they're bringing Lockheed into this. But I think that having a dragon in the insane asylum was not going to work. And I think what it does later is it kind of, I don't know. I don't want to get too ahead, but I like the inclusion of Lockheed because I like Lockheed as a character, even though he doesn't do a whole lot. I still think he's great. He's one of my favorite little cutesy animals. But it was always Kitty Pryde.
But it's a toy. It's not a puppet. It's a puppet.
It's a puppet in the movie, but in the actual comic book, it's a living creature.
Right, but it's I thought also in the comic it was also a toy as well. What, am I wrong? Because I remember it being. I don't know. I remember. Okay, well, I could be completely wrong. I knew it wasn't a puppet. I knew that. Yeah.
And it's named after the Lockheed Blackbird jet, or the Blackbird jet developed by Lockheed that was real popular in the early 80s. So that's where Claremont, the writer, got the name Lockheed.
That's
right. Okay.
What it does here for her character is she seems crazy, right? And she's like talking to a puppet, expressing with the puppet. She seems so, sullen and anti and everything, and yet she's walking around with a puppet, and like that's like there's it definitely brings her into a different dimension than just the sullen teenager. She's definitely more than that, because like something definitely has happened to this girl, and like what is up with the dragon? And I think that she did a great job with it. I think they did a good job with the reveal later, but like they incorporate it just enough, and she loses it for a while, and it's like it shows a lot to her character, which I enjoyed not knowing who Lockheed was or Illyana. It brought me into what they were trying to say with her. So
yeah, you're right. I forgot there was never an incarnation where it was a toy. It was just an alien dragon thing. But I like that. And I can't wait to geek out about when he really shows up later, because that was really interesting. Well, anyway, Illyana, Magic as she'll be known, tells her, oh yeah, there's no fence. You can go run. And she smacks into the shield. And then, there's a wolf watching, the proceedings, which are, already know what's up. But then because Reyes did not feed the right bear, and now the depths of despair have really hit her. Here is a piece of, like, the kids aren't even nice to her. Everybody's gone. There's no hope. She goes to climb the clock tower to jump off. And then Rain stops her, from doing that. Is there anything on that piece? I mean, I get it. It was cool. So in the comics, Rain and Dani are very close friends. And they're almost sisters in the comic. So I was really glad that it really quickly they jumped in and made them the ones that were going to bond. It is interesting that only Illyana thinks Dr. Reyes is full of shit. Mm-hmm. The rest of them are buying in. They're buying into her bullshit at some level. A couple question more, but no, Rain's like, nope, we're here for our own good, and this is all good, and we need to be here. Like they've really fallen for it. Except Illyana's just not having any of it because of her past. She's like, fuck this noise. But anyway,
yeah,
go ahead,
Well, yeah. One of the things you have to look at how they relate to authorities that came before. Sam with his dad, like this is all spoilers, but he ends up killing his dad and feeling terrible about it because it was accidental. I'm blanking on Sunspot's name, but Roberto. Roberto. He's he was living comfortable with his family, as far as we know. And so, he's above authority in some respects, but also is good with, like, he knows that he needs help because of what happened with him and his powers. So, Sam and he both, and Roberto both really, like, they know that they need help. Rain is, I don't know quite yet what to think about Rain, although she, but and Dani is kind of an unknown quantity at this point. But Illyana especially is like, no, authority is terrible, and I am much better off by myself as long as I have Lockheed, right? And so that showcases itself, that plays out as we go here, as we've started.
Yep.
I think also, like, it delves into Illyana's tricking of Dani is both humorous to Illyana and also a sense of trying to, win her over a little bit about, you see, they got you in a cage, I want you to experience for yourself what's happening here. And I want you to get angry about it, because I'm angry about it. And and something else I was trying to think of, like, when I was going on, and I blanked, but I think that the interactions between the characters is very interesting. I like the fact that Rain stops Dani from a suicide attempt. I think it's a good way to kind of start the bonding of the characters. And
agreed.
Yeah,
that was great. Well, they walk down and Dr. Reyes runs up nearly panicked. Like, she is breathing heavy, and where have you been? No one's supposed to be unaccounted for. Just that is a signal that, man, she really isn't supposed to have anybody escape. Like, she looked personally terrified, which we'll learn later she would have been personally held accountable. And then Sam is hooking himself up to fly around and blast, or whatever they call it, right, his cannonball. And they ask, why does he do this? And then none of them really know. So I'd love you guys' take real quick. We don't have to go down a rabbit hole, but why does Sam do that? I think it's rage and letting it out and venting and, like, self-punishing himself for what happened. All those things are probably true, but there's no wrong or right answer. What do you think?
I interpret it as he's trying to learn how to control it, and he knows and he knows he can't turn, which is part of the aspect of the character of the comic books.
That's right.
Because I think say in the comic book, and I kind of got this interpretation also in the movie, Sam is supposed to be the oldest. And I think Berto might look the oldest, but Sam is supposed to be the oldest.
Yes.
And I think he's looking at this like, I have to go back into the real world eventually, and I want to be able to control my power so I don't kill anybody else's dad. So I think that's spot on. He's trying to take it seriously.
Nice.
And I think that Roberto is not, because I think he's trying to be a cucumber that is, as I got this under control. Illyana doesn't see a problem. Dani doesn't know there's a problem. And I think Rain feels guilty about what she has. But to me, Sam is like, I've got to get this shit under control.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, and also any damage that Sam does to himself in the process is like, well, I deserve that. So it just means I need to keep on going, and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was. I for those who don't know, Brev just said it in the comic. You can't turn. He blasts in one direction. He's like a souped up juggernaut. He gets going one direction and that's it. He can't stop. He can't turn. He learns to control it and get better at it and go in straight lines. But that's the reason why. That's why he was trying to learn how to turn. And in the comics, I don't think that's part of he can't. That's part of the deal. You can't. You can go that way, right? Then you can stop and then you can go that way or whatever. But anyway, yeah, I think he was trying that. Then Rain actually, she says, thanks for helping me. And then Rain has that really great line. She goes, what do I know? Maybe we both should have jumped. Like, that's a really cool line. Like, you know what? I really don't have the answers either. I just know you probably shouldn't have done that. We'll figure it out from here. I just like that. It's a very clever line. I liked it a lot.
What I took away from it, and this is, so Rain is a Protestant, right? But sometimes we get things confused when it comes to different religions when we're looking at Scottish people. And she's a Protestant. So while suicide's a bad thing in the Protestant religion, absolutely, it's a mortal sin if you're a Catholic. So it's that moment to remind you she's not a Catholic. And so when something else later happens, when the Protestant priest or preacher comes in, we were reminded, okay, he's not a Catholic. So that's why he's dressed like that and not like in the typical Catholic garb. So
right. Okay. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
But I love it too. I thought it was great. I was like, maybe we both should have jumped. It was a fun, glib line that probably would have ended all their problems.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Right? Well, anyway, so you see that Reyes has got cameras on him all at night, and the cameras are beyond that. They're actually scanning bio readings and other things. Dani starts to dream again. Sam experiences the visions of the miners. And because, again, I know who Dani Moonstar is, I've already pieced all of this together. It's the interesting of how, and in the comics, is that was what happened with Sam. He killed his dad. Is all that from it? Because I read comics and I read them in splotches. So sometimes I didn't follow a full storyline all the way to the end or whatever. I knew people powers and all those things, but was that his
kind of what happens in Cannonball's origin story? His father's already died. He died of the black lung pop, to quote Zoolander. But they were Kentucky miners and things like that. And so his dad had already passed away. So Sam at like 17 or 18, when you first meet him, he's going into the mines to work for his family, to basically to provide food for his family, right? And then the mine starts to crumble a little bit, and that's when his power triggers. And he rescues his uncle in it, but other people die. And so then he feels guilty. He feels like he's the one that set off the mine. We find the earthquake, which, if I remember right, it just happens because those things happen. He feels guilty because he thinks he killed everybody else and saved his uncle, and then he's ostracized from the town, all the rest of that sort of stuff. So, again, they changed things for the movies, and I get it. That's fine. It's an adaptation for a reason. And I think that the origin in the movie is definitely where we wanted to go, because we wanted to really give trauma to these teens. Like, that their powers can kill people.
Right.
And I think the only one of them that really wants to kill people is Illyana. So
yeah. And it's interesting. I mean, don't forget the very first manifestations of powers in the close. In the very first X-Men movie is Rogue nearly killing her boyfriend, just trying to have their first kiss. And so here's the thing. Most authoritarians, part of what they say is true. Like, what they're using to justify what they're doing, there's truth in it. And a lot of kids do hurt people when their powers manifest. They can't control them. They don't know what they are. They didn't even know that was going to happen.
Yep.
Rogue had no idea that was going to happen. All that stuff's true. So I loved that because it is kind of dark. Like, you could hurt people around you. It's not, but see, Charles would have fed, to Donald's point, fed the right bear.
Yes.
And because he understands, no, you can't treat the kids like this. This is going to make them worse. Like, you're going to turn everybody into Illyana.
Well, we are all fathers, all three of us, and we all know that as disciplinarian as we need to be, our kids need to know that they're loved and they have a home and that they're protected.
Damn right.
And that's the first thing we have to provide as fathers, and we have to do that, and that's our job. And I think that for all of Charles's faults, and because he's not perfect, his intention is always to be there, to give you a home, a place where you feel love, you feel like, I will protect you. This school will protect you. Reyes is doing a job, and as we find out, we find out she's been doing this job for a long time for some very bad people.
Right.
So her job is to create a tool, a weapon. Charles is to create a school, place where you can learn, where you can make friends, where we can be together, a family.
Right. Yep. Absolutely. Well, anyway, they end up, Sam destroys the dryer because of his flashback or whatever. And it throws him across the room. So they're starting to also using the dreams to set up what everyone's power is, because they wouldn't say inside we didn't learn inside the group session. Right. Dani heads to the shower. Rain's already there and warns her that, there's no cameras in here, but there might be microphones. So you got to be careful what you say. She sees the W on Rain's back and they don't want to talk about it. Now you get it, because in the group session, she said she was called a witch. And so you can put two and two together. They're spoon feeding you a little bit of how bad it was. Like, she doesn't, here's a cool thing about that show me, don't tell me. That brand on her back, you don't have to tell me anymore. You don't need to articulate to me the details of the horror that happened to her, and I get the whole thing. Just that little brand on the back of her back. Does that make sense?
Oh,
I don't need anything else.
Yes. Yeah. You don't want to go into the flashback moment. We don't need the moment like the accused. In that moment, we're good. We get it. That was not a by choice branding. So yeah, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, so Reyes then leads another is like a group meditation of sorts.
Yes.
Sam's what? No, was it Roberto? Sam's not laughing, and then Roberto's like checking out the chicks. Like anyway, they're not into it much. I mean, Rain's really trying.
Yes,
looks like Dani's kind of trying. Everyone's else at different levels of whatever. Like Illyana's not even attempting. But this gets to actually where Illyana confronts Dani, starts just being an awful fucking bully. And then they go to fight. And then Dr. Reyes comes in. We see she's the one putting up the shield. That's not technology. That's her. Anyway, and then they're both put in solitary, which I want to talk about because there's a lot there. Anyway, and then Illyana, we finally see weakness, or I don't want to say weakness. You see something about her fear, because where this will end is her almost kind of rocking herself to sleep. And then Illyana has a little bit of a brief flashback. This will cut there. As you can hear, I condensed the silences and the pregnant pauses down quickly, but if you guys are ready, we can play this. I like this scene. Here we go.
Hey, Standing Rock. You want a buffalo wing? You people love buffalo, don't you?
Jeez, Illy, will you just leave her alone?
It's okay. Standing Rock. That's a good one. More original than Pocahontas. I was huge in 5th grade. You don't scare me. My dad told me about bitches like you.
Well, here. Why don't you show us on the puppet where Daddy touched you?
Lock it! Hey, guys, come on!
You keep my father's name out of your mouth, bitch! You don't know anything about me.
Do you know anything? 16 years old and doesn't even know her power. Seems like that mutant period should have kicked in by now.
Leave her alone.
I'm helping her. This is therapy.
Get your hands off me.
Or you'll what? Let's find out. What are you gonna do, huh? Bitch!
You know the rules. No powers in here, and definitely no fighting.
Sorry, Doctor. I thought maybe Dani was invincible. Just wanted to see if I was right.
Solitary. Both of you.
But it wasn't Dani's...
Everyone else, lights out in 10. I'll see you in the morning.
I'll see you in hell.
Come on.
What's that, Lockie? Don't be scared. We'll go to our special place, okay? The smiling men can't get us in our special place.
Can I say, I personally, and Donald can attest to this, because when we grew up, part of what bonded Sean and I, or Donald and I's friends, is the same bullies were bullies to us both.
Right.
And I mean, there was definitely that component in there. And this is the thing, is Illyana acts like every bully I did this to. If they call me names or whatever, when they're out of words, they also can't lose the argument in front of their little mob bosses all hovered around them. Their little fucking stooges and their little stoolies, right? So now they got to start swinging. And I would do that. Like, they'd call my girlfriend. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm just completely pity with her. Yeah, she's ugly. Yeah, like I would always disarm them. Oh yeah, that was big. Yeah, I haven't heard that one since like kindergarten. I appreciate you. Like, I would do that. I'd use my mouth, duh, and I would push back on them, and then that's when the swinging would start, because they have nowhere to go. I would back them into verbal corners and all the time, and they didn't have the capacity to keep up with my mouth. Shock, I know. And but I would do it on purpose to I'm like, oh, you act so tough. Swing then. Swing. You've been acting tough in front of all these people. And I got swung at a few times because they would take me up. So I just really, Dani channeled me for a moment from back in junior high. Like, I totally did what she did. Anyway, I loved it. So anyway, I'll shut up. What did you guys think of this whole thing? Brev, what'd you think of this whole section?
I loved it. I thought it was great. Now, and it's interesting to hear, again, this is where an adaptation takes place, is Illyana typically in the comics would never have used slurs like that. But at the same time, this is an adaptation, so that's fine. And what she's trying to do is she's trying to elicit an emotional response because she wants to know what she's dealing with. She wants to know what can Dani do.
Yep.
And so I am picking and picking and poking because I want to see with this other. I know what everybody else can do. What can she do? And I want to see it. And so that's what she's trying to do here. And using every attempt at that. Yeah, she's absolutely being a bully. Because Illyana is not the type of person that wants to have anything around her that she doesn't know what's going to happen or have some level of control.
Yes.
And when we see her backstory, we understand why.
Understand absolutely why.
And so, but for Dani and I love the fact that Dani stands up to her, because they could have very easily written Dani as more of a wallflower, but instead they're like, nope, Dani's tough too. Yeah, she had a little rough go here the first couple of days, but nope, she's standing on her own 2 feet. And she's not going to be afraid of Illyana. She's going to stand up for herself and to her. And I thought it was great. My only issue was I hated, and this is the filmmaker in me, I wanted the soul sword to stay hidden until the very last moment.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Because I really think that final moment when she pulls it out could have been the yay moment. But at the same, for everybody who knew who the character is, and like, oh shit. But at the same time, saying this out loud, the real yay moment for her is when you see her real mutant power, which is the stepping discs, where she can move into a different dimension. That's the real power. That's Illyana's real power. Her soul sword comes from a whole different thing. So I guess therefore that's fine, but it's a more visceral experience to have the soul sword to see it. But I really wish that had been played in the end. And then we're going back to reinforcing the fact that Reyes is there. She's being nice. It's kind of like these are the rules. These are the rules and you have to follow them. And I'm sure you guys, we've all been there when we got in trouble for being picked on, when we were like, oh, I was defending myself.
Yep.
And you got the punishment along with it. All three of us are cut from similar cloths in that regard. And I think most of your fans are too. And so we've all been down similar paths, maybe not the same, but similar. And so we've all been there. And I like the fact that Reyes' character is reinforced by that. It also 100%. Stands up. That's very interesting to me. And I like the guys in this movie. I really do. But it's so Claremont version of X-Men and New Mutants, where the ladies really do take the center stage and the boys are kind of supporting cast. And I love that, because in a genre that's typically all male dominated, here you go. Here's 3 women that are the leads in this movie. 4 if you count Reyes. So anyway, Go ahead, Donald.
Oh no, that's fine. And to your point, like Sam is dealing with his own stuff and doesn't want to get in. I think he, if anybody, would be tempted to try to come in between them to try to break it up, and yet he's like, no, if nothing else, I might explode. And I think Roberto is doing this, kind of feeling the same way. Like, although he's also kind of enjoying the show, right? Like, Illyana is doing this for her audience in a lot of ways as well, and they're just kind of sitting back. They're not like, they don't need to express dominance about it or break up. They don't feel like they're in the lead, even though like Sam is the oldest. It's just not that kind of a group dynamic, right?
In my head canon, Sam is trying to stop the situation before it gets out of control, because he knows what out of control looks like.
Sure.
And Berto's over there going like, man, I hope they start lesing out. And that's what I see these two boys are thinking about, right? And like Berto's like, all right, here we go, it's gonna get hot. It's like, no, dude, stop. That's not what this is about. This is gonna get out of control really fucking fast. We need to stop it now. So
yeah, 100%. So after this, we get another night. So every night Dani goes to sleep, more shit hits the fan. There's snow in her room. And then there's a bear. Reyes checks on her, but she's got actual manifested blood on her hand, like the blood's real. Which I'm not really sure how that's the one piece. I don't know. I didn't catch how that is, but it's to show you and demonstrate. It's the visual cue that these visions are visions, yet they are real. It's not imaginary. You can't just wish them away. You're not real. You're not real. Like they try that later a little bit, but no, they're legit. And then Reyes then does talk, takes blood from Dani and talks about baby rattlesnakes. And I'm like, I know where you're going with this because I know about that. And that is exactly, it's always for your own good, for your safety, for your security, right? It always comes wrapped in teddy bears and rainbows. It always does, right? And then it's every time she compared Dani to something else, it was always the worst possible thing. Like later it's a dog that has to be put down and now it's a baby rattlesnake. Like it was always horrible. And she kept pulling from those because her family had a vet or dad was a vet or whatever.
It sounds reasonable for her character, right? Like it's in some respects, like to the audience, to me, it felt like it was out of left field. Like, why the hell is she talking about baby rattlesnake? But once you get into it and, it does make sense for her character to be trying to justify her actions one way or another to her subject or victim, depending on what you're thinking. So it feels like it's out of left field, and yet at the same time, it is her trying to justify it to herself and trying to communicate how reasonable she is to Dani.
It rationalizes her actions by dehumanizing Dani.
There you go.
The dehumanization of Dani. It's you're a dog. You're not even a person, and I'm going to do whatever I want to.
Yeah, and she's speaking to herself as way more than she's speaking to Dani, right? So.
Yes, yeah. Dani is not a person, even though they're both mutants. Dani is not a person at this point. So,
and she has to. In fact, she does say later, not to like foreshadow, but later when she's going to try to literally put Dani down, she said, "This is more a test of me." She has to keep convincing herself to be this mean, that she has no choice, that she has to do it. Like she has to keep this version of Dr. Reyes has to keep convincing herself that this is the right thing to do. She even has doubts herself. So,
have we seen yet that has she revealed yet that she was one of the doctors in the Essex Corporation during Logan, or no? Has that not come up yet? Did I just spoil it for somebody who hasn't watched this movie yet?
I got to be honest. Is it said in this movie? It's not said to this point.
It's not specifically said.
She is obviously attached to it. We all get that. But I don't think they deliberately, which is why I even put in the show notes, like in my headcanon, these are the same. They're meant to look the same. I get they're basically the same. It's not the same building, same type of thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
In her flashback, she isn't it this time that she gets the visions of the Essex facility where the kids are doing different stuff.
I think so, because that's actually taken right from Logan. It even has that in the credits, whereas this is from the movie Logan, essentially.
Oh, okay.
It's literal footage from Logan. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
No, that's cool. I thought that made a lot of sense.
It does.
Then Rain goes to the confession booth. I got to say, I found Rain's character the most, and her struggle with everything the most compelling. And it was why she took the role. It was because she's got beliefs that are now crossways with what and who she is, yet she's trying to rectify all of that, plus the rejection of the church and all the things that she loved. And her going into the confession booth with no one there, and then, well, I'm going to do, one Our Father and two Hail Marys, okay? Like, she's doing it by herself. She still feels it's important enough to her soul to go in there and do that. I found that fascinating, just so fascinating.
It felt a lot like, reminiscent of Nightcrawler to me, from the other movies, that like, he's still faithful, even though he looks like a demon, right? Like there's what else can he do, because he believes this, but he's still struggling because, boy, I believe this, but then look at me and look how frightening I am. And what does that say about me? What does it say about what I believe? And just that whole struggle. And she's still trying to, express her faith in something above what that authority was that was labeling her as a witch that hurt her. That there's still something there to what she believes, despite what other people say about what she is, right? And that, there's a lot of allegory to that, I think. But yeah.
Oh yeah, and then you double down on that, and if you think about scenes later in the movie and you say to yourself,
right, exactly.
If this is an extremely religious person, I'm dealing with the fact that I have powers that everybody else doesn't have. And also I have feelings of homosexuality that aren't considered to be necessarily okay in my religion. Now I'm dealing with a lot of shit going on at a very young age. And it's extremely, and I don't know if I'm certainly not as they call it, a cis white male. I might probably not the perfect person to discuss this, but I think it bears the discussion. It bears the point of, that's a lot of what I took away from that, is this movie also has a lot of queer coding to it, where we are dealing with a lot at this age. And we are dealing with it with a person who is not interested in that. We are dealing with someone who doesn't care. We're dealing with Dr. Reyes, who's here to make a weapon, who's here to make a tool.
Right.
Yeah, and so when you're dealing with that, it's like, whoa. I mean, it flashed back to me to the moment in X2 X-Men United where Bobby's parents say, "Well, can you just stop being a mutant?" And it's like,
exactly.
How many times have we heard some of our homosexual friends say things like, "My parents are asking to just stop being gay"? It's like, no, that's who I am. And it's like, this is who I am. I'm a mutant. And here's Rain in a confession booth trying to deal with all of these things that are going on in her life.
Yep.
So anyway,
100%. Nope. Next scene is actually where they go up to the attic. The kids sneak out, go to the attic. They assume that they are not being watched and that they think it's secret, but it's something that Dr. Reyes allows them to do because she gets more information out of them if she spies on them doing it in the first place, which was really fantastic. But anyway, you guys ready for the lie detector, I guess, piece in the attic or whatever it is?
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, so they sneak out, grab Dani. Illyana doesn't want her to go, but they pull her up there. And anyway, here's that scene. Here it is.
Where have you been? Are you okay?
Yeah. Just needed some time to myself. Come on.
Where are you guys going?
Reyes is asleep, so we're going up to the...
Never mind. You're not invited.
Come on, really? Come on, we'll show you.
Whatever.
So you guys hang out in an attic?
Yeah. It's one of the only places Reyes can't watch us.
It's full of cool shit from back before this was even a place for mutants.
Let's play a little game.
Dare.
You can't say dare.
Fine. Jesus. Truth.
How many girls you been with?
Like I can even remember.
Rain. He's lying. It's a lie detector. We know.
Fine. 3.
That's not bad.
No, look. I told you.
What?
Why not?
I get too hot. Yeah, you think it's funny? Your turn, asshole.
What's the call for?
My dad gave it to me. Right before he passed.
I'm sorry.
Don't we? I belong here, so...
I'm not sure any of us belong here.
I think I do.
Why?
New girl, you already had this question. It's your turn.
Aren't you gonna hook me up?
I don't need a polygraph to tell if you're lying. What's your power?
I don't know.
I thought you were going to say that. How about another question? What's with the stupid bear?
Same as Sam. My dad made it for me.
Why?
When I was little, I was really afraid of the dark. Like, so afraid it was impossible to get me to go to bed. So my dad, he told me a legend of a bear. A demon bear. That lives inside of us and feeds off of our fear.
That'll help a kid sleep.
Shut up, Berto.
So when you're born, the bear is tiny and weak. And the older you get, the more afraid we become, the bigger and the stronger the bear gets. My dad, he He made this for me so that I would always remember how small it was when I was born. So that I would remember to never be afraid.
Enough. Let's do this. Truth.
Why are you here?
Because I killed 18 men. One by one. With my sword. And Lockheed.
You're lying.
No, she's not.
You don't believe me? I'm the most powerful mutant here.
So again, Illyana is trying to get that out of Dani. You're right, but then also the only reason she wants that lie detector test, she knows what they're going to ask him, and she knows what her answer is going to be, and she knows it's going to be truthful, and she's really trying to flex on him, honestly, and be the badass and all that stuff. Like, it was absolutely predictable as all hell. But watching Reyes watch this, I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. Like, she's a step ahead of him, which you kind of figured. I didn't think it was going to be quite that easy to get into an attic. Like, I kind of thought, wait a minute, I'm sure that they can. Yeah, she can see it. It's not fooling anybody, right? But anyway, yeah, go ahead, guys. What? Yeah,
I think it's some good character revealing moments here. You know, like Roberto is constantly trying to put up a front when you realize he's not.
Well, we learned from American Pie, it's the rule of 3. Like, you divide by 3, and then
yeah, the real that's number. Right. Oh my gosh, apple pie has never looked the same. So, but I like this moment because, you know, every kid goes through the truth or dare sort of game. We all do. I've got incredibly inappropriate stories to share when we're not recording. But I like the fact that the theme of the movie is played out in this very intimate scene between them. And you're right, Illyana's trying to flex, but I think she has a moment where they touch on something she's not ready to discuss. And I love that. That's a moment where her armor kind of comes down a little bit. Everybody else is willing to open up a little bit and kind of willing to open up and share and create a level of intimacy and create that sense of family that the movie eventually wants to get to. So,
yeah.
And some of the set is amazing because some of it I think is just the state mental hospital that is abandoned where they're filming. But there's they put up some graffiti that says the youth are sick and there is no cure, which I thought was an amazing thing. It also, all the graffiti kind of harkens back to the Another Brick in the Wall song from the trailer, which I thought was a great choice. There's some poetry involved here that I think, especially in the background, it's never even addressed overtly, but it has, I mean, there's layers to it, right? So this is not an easy, like, that people didn't just swap, throw this together. Josh Boone really put a lot into this movie to in a lot of ways to communicate a lot of different things about growing up and coming of age. So it's there's just a lot of nice touches like that.
Yep.
There's a lot of heart to it that I think that people missed because they were either going in for a horror movie, they were going in for a superhero movie, and instead they got a combination of both, and it doesn't lean into either. But instead, I thought it gave you a really touching human story.
Yep.
Yeah, and so much of what we see is like with teenagers, like they put up a front, they don't want to share, they don't want to talk, they don't want to respond even you get the grunt answers to questions and one word answers, and yet this movie shows like the gears are turning for sure, and like they're trying to figure out who they are and where they belong and stuff, and why do I do stuff that I don't want to do? Why do I do stuff that hurts people? And does that mean I'm a bad person and all that? And they're dealing with this in a much more overt way with the powers, but it's something that I think pretty much every kid goes through. So there's just a lot to it. Somebody talked about how John Hughes movies are a huge influence of it, just as much as The Shining or One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And so I think I think that's evident in this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
and that's one of the things like that I like about this movie is if you're an X-Men aficionado like myself, And if you read the 60s stuff with the original 5, they're called the strangest teens of all, but they're not really, and they're almost like, they're barely written as teenagers. There's a little bit of, there's some angst a little bit, but not much. Then they get older, they graduate very quickly, and they move on to be adults, and we're going to adult superhero Rex. And then when the all new, all different with Storm, Wolverine, Colossus, Nightcrawler, all of them come around, they're adults. And so it's not till 1982, 7 years after Claremont takes over and introduces the all new, all different team, that we get an opportunity to see what it's like to be a teenage mutant and to go through some of those things with the graphic novel of the New Mutants and then the comic book series that followed. And there was an in-story reason why it was done, but it was very much, I felt, done to give younger readers, to give those teen readers a chance to see what it's like to be a teenager, to see themselves represented on the page, and to see a lot of things that they're going through. And this movie's only 90 minutes or something like that, so it's a quick romp. But I think that it was touching on some of those things, and I think that it was really trying to give not credence, but give respect to the source material by saying I want to bring that forward too. That these kids are learning how to be kids. They're still learning how to be kids, like Donald said. Like, you don't get much out of teenagers.
Yeah.
But here's a moment where you do, and I felt like dismissing this movie as a piece of shit or it wasn't the world's greatest movie at all just destroyed a chance to really see something like that painted on screen. So
exactly. And actually, the next sequence is going to lead into more of this, where they have more of those Breakfast Club moments where they let their guard down and just start talking. To Donald's Hughes reference. But the next line you hear in the movie is Reyes goes, "I want to talk about obedience." And I'm like, "Oh, I bet you fucking, I really bet you do." And anyway, they start fighting and really questioning her. Like they're starting to be like, and they should have the whole time just because I don't know, my red flags went off. But anyway, their red flags are going off. Sam storms out. They're not having it. They spike her tea to go have fun around the place. They know they're not getting out. They also know they're going to be punished because the cameras are capturing everything. So when she wakes up, she's going to see the footage. So they're under no aspersions that they're getting away with anything. And they talk in the middle of the whole thing, well, getting what they do, but they talk in the middle about, it's going to be worth it anyway. Like they know they're all getting solitary or whatever the fuck they're going to get. Right. But Illyana actually does this really cool impression of Reyes, which is just like Bender was doing with the principal. Like exactly. It really is very much like that, which is great. They talk about becoming X-Men. What do they think of them? Did they want to be one someday? It's a recognition that no, those exist in the world. These are teenagers, to Brev's point, like actual, teenagers that aren't there yet. And they're either going to go work for Essex and Sinister or whatever. They're going to go this way.
But they don't know that either. Like she talks about her superior, and they think that her superior is Professor X. Berto does his impression in the wheelchair and everything with the eyebrow is awesome. So like they are in with the the head fake that started with Reyes talking about a school for people like her, and it continues so that there's no. Definitely there's an incongruity there that something doesn't match up, but they still are of the mindset that they're trying to be rehabilitated to be good guys. And, that's interesting to me that they still have that hope, which is interesting. I don't know.
Right.
When it's starting to look like that's not what's going on.
Right.
I don't know if they're trying to kid themselves. I don't know if any of them have actual doubts, but maybe they just doubt the methods, but have no doubts about where they're headed afterward. If they can only just get out of this, I don't know, but it's interesting.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that absolutely. And then this scene when Sam gets up and walks out, cause he's one of the good ones. Right. And so what this is showing is his level of almost solidarity with the rest of them. Right. Even though he's walking out, he's showing them, I'm going to stand up to Reyes as well. And that's the importance of the previous scene, the scene previous where we have the moment of the lie detector and then the fun and antics. And now we have their back. What's happened is they've created a level of intimacy. They created a level of understanding. They've created a level of empathy between each other. So they understand one another now. They have more respect for each other. They did the work that Reyes was wanting Reyes was trying to do is break down those walls. They did it themselves because they have human hearts and they care about it and they see each other as people. And so that's when this moment that we just talked about with the obedience thing, they're not going to have it anymore because they're like, no, you can't control us if we're all together. The moment the inmates take over the asylum, the guards are fucked.
Yep, that's right.
So there's a lot more inmates than there are guards.
Yep, 100%. Well, they split off at this point. Rain wants to show Dani something because it turns out it's going to rain and that shield and all that. They also shows her the vents and how to actually get out of the. If she's locked the doors, how to at least get out into the greater campus area. And they go that way. And then Sam and Roberto are talking, and Sam talks about his dad and what happened. We finally know we know it was something like that, right? Like after the mining flashback he had or the vision he had. Roberto still won't say his story. But anyway, Rain then talks about the vents. They know Ray's going to see the recordings. They go lay in the grass. They watch the thunderstorm and the shield, the rain hit, which was very, very cool. That was pretty dope. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
That was a cool effect. But then I really like, and here's what's happening. And we're going to jump around because the movie jumps around to each, pair of people or individuals. And the next thing we see is Roberto sees Illyana in the pool. Here's why this is genius. He's manifesting his worst fear because he obviously killed his girlfriend, or did he kill her or just scar her badly for life? I can't remember if it was a death or just she 3rd degree burns kind of a thing.
I don't think it ever says, and I think that's smart on the filmmakers' part because I think they were playing this out as a trilogy, so that's a thread they could use later.
Good point.
True, although I thought it was implied that he killed her.
Maybe so. Yeah. And I not disagreeing, Donald. I think it is. Regardless, his greatest fear is hurting somebody that he loves while trying to be intimate because he's a horny teenage kid and he had a girlfriend. And anyway, and Anya Taylor-Joy is hot. But see, the interesting thing is putting it in the pool gives him just enough of a, ooh, wait, maybe it'd be okay in here. I didn't think about that. It makes him jump in the pool. See what I did there? No, it makes him literally and figuratively jump in and try it. And then his worst fear is going to manifest. But I really liked that. I'm like, oh man, they're fucking with him because that pool's going to give him this little carrot of maybe it's okay here. Maybe it's okay here. Like we could do it in the snow or we could do it in the pool. Like you pick. I don't know. Messing around.
So I've got a question for Donald in this. Donald, when you were watching this movie, if you can flash back to that moment, were you thinking that this was all being done by Reyes or Reyes's or what or her boss because all the cameras? Because I kind of felt like that was one of the fakes they were giving, but I don't know. What was your thought?
Good point.
Well, the scene in the pool to start with, I thought was I took it at face value to start with. So like I thought that was really her, and there was no it was weird, but I thought that they were going that direction of like. He's going to try it, and then it's going to be a problem. It definitely
was the most realistic. It was the most realistic of all the visions. No, that could really happen. And she's acting a little too nice, just enough.
That's true, but you can tell that she's putting up a front anyway every other time. So it wouldn't be surprised that she could put up a different front when she's actually attracted to a guy and they're alone. It wasn't surprising to me. And there obviously was the point where I'm trying to think of where it turned. For me, as far as the thought, but I think I was basically on board for exactly what the filmmaker was going for, which is, I didn't necessarily know until right before the turn. So, and I still didn't quite understand why you were asking whether is it Reyes, is it Dani, is it something else? I didn't get how it could have been Dani at that point. So I think that I thought there was something outside of all of these folks, whether it was Essex or something else, some external threat maybe. I had no idea, but I wasn't thinking of anything close to the truth.
Right. Okay, that's fair. That's cool. We need to ask more questions like that because Brev and I knew what was up from the jump, and you didn't, which is fascinating because I think we're the exceptions. I think Donald's experience with the film was much more typical and honestly what the filmmakers are going for. Excuse me. After this, Dani and Rain share their kiss. I'll say this on it. In the comics, they're not.
No.
In fact, it's not even discussed in the comics. At the same time, I understand the writing reason, because you're piling on to Rain more about how she grew up is wrong with who she is inside. The reason I'd only go it's slightly cringy is that was already established. Her lycanthropy is already a fucking problem. It's already who she is. That's already a big deal with her religion. She's already been branded a witch. That for me is plenty. So, and then they didn't, and there was going to be a trilogy, and if their relationship blossomed past this and it never got a chance, fair enough. I just kind of got through with it because they drop it immediately, and for the rest of the movie, it's not a thing. So I was like, okay, do I give a shit? No, I don't give a shit. It works for Rain's character. It absolutely works for her character and what she is dealing with and going through. It just was, I liked the relationship in the comics. They were like sisters, and I thought that could work too. But either way they go, I don't know what you guys thought. It's fine. Worked, and it's all good, and shows kind of more why she wanted to get her out there and all that stuff, which is dope. But anyway, I don't know. I could be wrong.
I go ahead, Brett.
No, you go ahead.
Well, like I'm kind of with you. Like it absolutely works with Rain's character, and it kind of makes it a little more on the nose what they're talking about with an allegory. But at the same time, that's fine. Like it's there. You can do that. With Dani, I don't know that it made as much sense, but it also is the timing is right for teenagers to have that awakening.
And Rain is the only nice person to her in this whole place. Dude.
Exactly. So why wouldn't you? Even especially she got those puppy dog eyes, So
totally. No. I even for Dani, as you say, even in the comics, this doesn't kind of make sense. But when I do understand how it happens, we even talked about it in The Last of Us. It made sense, for it made sense for Ellie to be like that, in fairness. Like it just did. I mean, every nice person around her was female. All the guys were complete dickheads. Like it didn't matter how it manifested or why or whatever. It made all the sense in the world, in my humble opinion. So I don't know. Brev, did you have anything on that?
I guess for me is as years have gone on. So it's not in the comic books because that wasn't allowed. Like Jim Shooter,
and it also wasn't pertinent to the story either.
Well,
it superheroes and bad guys and powers. It wasn't. I don't know.
Right. But Jim Shooter, the editor in chief at the time, had said absolutely no homosexual characters in comics.
Okay, well, fair.
So, and it has only become in recent years where homosexuality has become something that they can put, and even then, they're kind of a lot of trepidation on characters written and created in the 80s and before to ever touch that with. So, while there's some coding when it comes to Dani's character, there's not much when it comes to Rain's. So it was interesting to have that swap going on. But I kind of look at it also like Donald said, and like you said, Scott, where this is the only person that's being nice. I also have a whole bunch. I'm a 13-year-old, 14-year-old. I've got raging hormones.
Yeah,
and this is a person that I'm connecting with. And
100%.
maybe love is beyond what's between my legs, but more of what that person means to me in my heart. And, and I think that was there. But I also feel like it was a moment like, well, we don't really do much with that afterwards. But like you said, Scott, had this been a trilogy, I bet they would have expanded upon it. So
sure.
I did think the rain effect, no pun intended, the rain effect coming down on the shield was really cool. I was like, that's awesome. I would totally be watching that. So
I'd be doing that too. That'd be worth the punishment. Yeah.
Totally a word, right?
I love the bait and switch with Illyana in this moment. I really thought that was badass.
Yeah, and the switch happens here. The water starts to get steamy, which was really cool. And then she eggs him on, and she says basically, yeah, but you can't hurt me. Like, even if you do go, it's not going to hurt me. And I thought that actually makes a lot of sense.
It's true. It's actually true.
It's absolutely true. Like, not only is she hot, it's like, oh, maybe she is one of the only people that it would work out with, right? Or,
but she's also not real, and so she is also telling the truth.
Fair. Anyway, the creature rises out of the water and it's his girlfriend on fire. Anyway, the alarm goes off. Everyone comes running. Reyes wakes up. Roberto is entirely on fire now, and Reyes pushes him into the pool. I was a little surprised she didn't use her shield, just like to shove him, but she grabbed like the pool net or whatever.
Well, and right before that, we see
half the pool evaporated instantly, which is awesome. Go ahead, Donald. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Right before that, we see a camera shot of the inside of Illyana's chamber, and so she's still in her locked in her room,
right.
Which I'm not sure how she gets out at that point, but whatever. And so it's or maybe she's in her room at least, and so we know that something's up, and it's so quick that, if you weren't sure with the reveal, you at least know, oh, nope, it really wasn't her. She's not trying to pull anything over on him. Like there's definitely something up, right?
100%. We've got a couple of scenes here. Well, they get put in solitary. Illyana does. She really challenges Reyes in that moment, gets put in solitary. There's a couple scenes back to back we wanted to play. This first one, now remember, if there's no dialogue, I cut out a lot of the pauses and stuff, so this will be very, very condensed. But the next thing is she's doing tests on Dani, and questions her about what happened and her powers. She says it was the demon bear, but this is where she sees the images of the kids in the hospital.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
Treatment.
Yeah,
and I think part of it's because she got drugged up. It's the sedation that lets her get there for whatever reason and the only thing I want to ask, Brev, I don't remember Dani having, I don't know how to say it. Did she have psychic powers in that regard to be able to like visit a place and see stuff that happened? Was this just in there for speed of plot stuff? I'm trying to remember if Dani's psychic abilities, of which there are, was in there. I don't remember though.
I don't think that Dani has the ability, because she just withdraws from you. Like, I don't know if she can go into your head to go visit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think this was a plot need to move forward, like to show what Reyes' fear is, right?
And for the audience, the audience needs to be able to see what the fear is.
Yeah, and the audience now can make the connection that they've been watching all these movies and go like, "Oh my god, that's what we just saw in that Logan movie." Like, oh shit, this is not Xavier. Reyes doesn't work for Xavier. She works for this other guy. Oh no, get out. So, yeah.
Well, anyway, this is going to jump around. Rain's going to be in the shower and hear something. It's going to be the priest. Dani's going to try to run to help. She'll be drugged. Illyana starts figuring it out, that because she'll also see the smiling man for the first time here. And she starts figuring out this didn't start till Dani got here. But anyway, let's listen to this. Here we go.
Today, Dani, we're going to go a little deeper. Clench your fist. This will relax you. I'm gonna ask you a series of questions. I want you to respond truthfully. What's the last thing you remember before coming here?
My dad woke me up. He said we had to run. And everything was shaking.
What were you running from?
He said it was a tornado.
We both know it wasn't a tornado, Dani. What were you running from?
It was snowing.
In the summertime?
It brings the snow.
What does?
The demon bear. Where are you?
I'm right here, Dani.
What are you doing?
Dani?
Hello? Dani? Who's there?
You're not real. I killed you.
Not like Christ. I rise again.
Stay away from me!
I'll keep what's going on.
Focus, Dani. Can you control it?
Nobody can.
Is that real? That's real. See, I told you this shit's real.
What happened to her? You happened. It's Dani. It's all Dani.
I didn't do anything.
You brought this evil here. I now know your power in you, girl. Let me show you mine. She's in our heads. She'll kill us all.
So I understand Illyana wanting to, because if she's put 2 and 2 together that, oh, you're making the smiley men come back, you're done. Like, really, I get it. I get the reaction of that's never happening again. And you're doing this? Oh, fuck you. And then the W being real was really terrifying. I felt sick at my stomach when I saw it, when that was over. The scream you hear, the no dialogue part I left was her scream, which was just fucking terrifying. Some screams in horror films and horror scenes don't work for me. That Maisie did. I mean, that's a fucking terrified.
Well, because they don't show her as that's happening. It zooms in on the other shower heads pushing out steam at that point, so she can't get anywhere else. It's like trapping her in so that she has nowhere to go. Otherwise, she'll get burned by steam. So it's a great scary scene for sure.
No, she did great. Anyway, the smiling men we do need to talk about here because this is the first time they appear. And I gotta be honest, my head of what they represented was dancing around what it is, but it wasn't until watching this 2 more times this week in prep for the show that I really was diving into everything that it is. But Brev, you kind of helped clarify a couple things for me, so I will not steal your thunder. But if anyone didn't understand what it is, you want to explain it, and I'll go over here and cry in the corner while you do.
Sure. I mean, it's pretty brutal. So if Illyana is, the smiling men represent all of the smiling faces of all the pedophiles that raped her as a child. And because they were all having a good time at her expense. And Lockheed is almost like her safety blanket and her only friend through all of that. And so Illyana's power is implied that she could step through to limbo, which is her safe zone, away from, she could teleport there. Stepping discs take her there to teleport her away from these men.
Right.
And so the implication also being these 18 men, is a very specific number, are the ones that raped her as a small child that she went and hunted down and murdered.
Yep.
For what they did to her.
And
that sums up her character. And like, once you see that, everything else she's done up until that point makes a lot more sense.
100%. In the comics, I do not remember her. I remember her. Is that in the comics?
No. The comics,
really?
Her comics history is different. Her comic history was she's the younger sister of Colossus. And when she's with the X-Men for a little while, and she gets kidnapped through a portal stepping disc by a demon named Belasco and taken to Limbo. And the X-Men try to rescue her and fail. And then she's stuck in Limbo for I think it's 7 years or something like that. And in there, she is, it's not on panel, but essentially manipulated by an evil sorcerer named Belasco, his demons. She's beaten, she's raped, she's turned into basically a monster. And then when she dethrones Belasco, she has the opportunity to return back to Earth, in which she does, and she shows up right back 2 seconds after the X-Men failed to rescue her. She's now back, but now she's 14. And so she's dealing with all these things, and her mutant power is the stepping discs. The stepping discs, though, because where she got her power, are now inextricably linked, or they are forever linked to Limbo. So every time she uses them, she has to step into Limbo, where she's now the queen of Limbo, but and then she can step wherever she wants to after that. So it's an adaptation, and her soul sword goes into all this sort of stuff, but it's an adaptation, but I think it works for this movie.
Well, Brev, they don't have time to tell that story.
No,
they don't have time.
Which is why we're going to have to figure it out. Because sex trafficking is such a well-known thing at this point in time. It's absolutely horrible. And when I saw this moment, I was thinking about my own children, particularly my new daughter, my new daughter like she's a toy, but my baby girl at this point in time, and thinking to myself like, oh my God, I would murder these 18 men if this happened.
Goddamn
absolutely. Right. It was my sons, I'd murder them. But I was like, and so this was a way to not have to mess with Blasco and Sim and Inferno and all that sort of stuff, and focus on, okay, what would this child be like in today's society, and how would that work? And that's why we have Limbo as her safe spot to go step to and step back out of. But it's
dark
fucking brutal.
As fuck.
Yeah.
Dark as fuck, but everything makes sense. And then on it, like I said, the W now there's one that you can't hide. And it's real, and it really happened. Oh my God. Like this whole sequence was just dark as all fuck. Gets worse, but
right.
Yeah, it seems the Smiling Man, I knew it was abuse. I was pretty sure it was it was that. I think what it was is that it manifests. I think what was throwing me is that Dani's power manifests your greatest fear. It doesn't always have to be your history, even though for a lot of these characters, what happened to them in the past is now their greatest fear. It became their greatest fear. So I was dancing around what it really was, and I got it, but I didn't quite completely connect all the dots. Donald, how was it for you? I'm probably really stupid and dense because I was putting together a half of my comic knowledge along with what I was seeing on screen. Was it just uber clear to you and you're like, yeah, you're a fucking idiot, Scott? What this was?
I mean, I can't imagine trying to reconcile what I know from comics to this, and thankfully I didn't have to. So because it's enough of a thriller, mind fuck of like, what the hell is going on? And there's a point where they say that it's Dani, and I still didn't quite understand how, because she's asleep when it happens, or she's drugged when it happens, and things like that, or she was out making out with Rain when the thing happened with Birdo in the pool. I couldn't wrap my head around it, and to some extent I still can't, because it's such a big power, and that's part of the point, is she doesn't have a handle on it. So that, I mean, it makes sense as you start turning it over in your head, but in the moment, I still was. I was in a lot of ways just there with the characters, of like, what the actual, like, what the hell? But it never, because we saw from Rain and Sam and Birdo, their history was tied to what their fear was. Like, this was a haunting. This was like, their past coming back to them, their past trauma. And so it made all the sense in the world that the Smiling Men were, her memory, right? That's just her memory of them, is to have these, and it was chilling for her to talk about, like, as they made us cry, that made them smile. And that's, those were the really scary characters for sure, that, and just not just how they were shown, but also what they represented that I knew about sex trafficking. And so it was a really, really rough sequence with all of them. It was truly scary. And what connected the dots for me a little bit was what they were wearing. Like, yeah, they were stylized monsters basically, and my son caught a glimpse of that as I was watching. He's like, oh, it's Slender Man. I'm like, well, I mean, it's along those lines. But they were wearing like silk shirts, and they had, like with a couple buttons down, and they had the tattoos all over, underneath the shirts. It looked very much like anything out of, John Wick or any, Russian mafia type. Like, it's exactly what it was evocative to the point where I knew exactly who those guys were one way or another. Right.
That's fair. Yeah.
Do you think there's something, I know we're running long, but do you think there's something in the history of Sam and Roberto, their powers affected somebody else, but for Illyana and Rain, they were affected by other people?
It's a great thought. I don't know.
And I don't know if there's anything in there. Maybe another listener can expound upon that. But, and then Dani's kind of the outlier here, because she's the only one who's she's the only female whose power affected everybody else around her. But both Illyana and Rain were tormented. I mean, for the lack of a more horrific word.
Well, yeah, the traumas for Rain and Illyana were induced from outside, and then for Sam and Berto, the trauma was because of what they did with their powers was so horrible and out of control. And I mean, I can relate to both, but personally, like as I was growing up, I would find that I was too strong stronger than what I realized, and so then I would end up hurting people or breaking stuff or whatever. So I can relate to that in particular for sure.
Yeah. The one piece in here that was throwing me was because I know that's not really one of her powers. They were alluding that Illyana can also manifest stuff out of nothing if she just like concentrates enough. She's magic, which is how Limbo comes to be in this continuity. That was what was throwing me off, because we had a combination of things that two characters had manifested that were and weren't real, but were, but weren't, right? And that was what was throwing me with the whole men and what they were and represented. Because I'm like, is this real? Is this memory? Is this what? Because what happened to Illyana had nothing to do with her powers and happened long before the powers manifested. Had nothing to do with anything. Correct. At least in this continuity, right?
Correct.
So, the next scene is my favorite, one of my favorite scenes. Dani visits Illyana and brings her back Lockheed, which this is the moment where now Illyana puts the facade down and actually just they kind of become friends. I mean, finally, like Dani gets the Ice Queen chipped away enough, just with one act, as Brev said very geniusly at the start. Dr. Reyes is nice. She is not kind. Dani showed kindness to Illyana here in this by bringing her Lockheed back. No judgment, no teasing you about the fact you have a puppet, none of that. I know you need this here, and then you can talk to me. You know what I mean? So anyway, so this actually explains a lot more with some exposition of what we were just talking about. So here it is.
Something's happening to me, and I can't control it. That place you took me. Was it hell?
Limbo. The place we made up.
We?
Me and Lockheed.
I brought someone for you.
At first, it was just our special place. We went there in our minds whenever something bad was about to happen. We went there so much. Stayed there so long. It became real.
I saw a memory. It wasn't mine. Who were they?
I never knew their names. They were all the same. They made us cry. Then it made them smile.
So that's dark as fuck. Appreciate that. Yep.
Welcome to a superhero movie.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Made us cry. And then there was a little bit of ambiguity here for 5 seconds for me where because they talked about here and after that they talk about Dani had this memory of this other hospital. For a second when I first saw it was, did the rapes happen at that hospital? Well, like, is that what I now I understand? No, it's completely separate stuff. Had nothing to do with anything. Which is great. That little image of Dani catching on that there's a hospital or something else Dr. Reyes is up to here is really smart. I'll talk about later. But this is where Reyes then after this, I just like the scene. I liked watching Illyana finally not act like a complete snatch. And look, based on what happened to her, I get it. Like Brev said, I get it. You do not she does not have to justify why she acts the way she does. I get it. Yes, she should try to be better and not be mean and don't be racist toward Dani. Let's calm down.
But the fact that she's functioning at all at this point is amazing, right? So.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And you wonder if the murder of those 18 men actually helped her get to where she could
it would have helped me. Let me put it that way.
Would have helped? Goddamn right. Like, can I help hold them down, or would you like? I'll just catch them. I don't know. Whatever.
Did it help Eric in First Class?
Yeah. No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, you're not
thought.
wrong.
Your mileage may vary on revenge murders. So
mileage may vary. That's right. Well, anyway, Dr. Reyes then gets orders. We see it on the computer to terminate Dani, get her DNA, get more blood samples, and just let her go, kill her. And we see it's the Essex Corp, which I was pretty sure that's where we were heading, just based on everything they'd been setting up and doing and all those kind of fun things. But anyway, then we see Rain icing her new scar. It looks so gross. But she's not judging her at all. She's not judging Dani. She's not worried about it. She says, I know you can't control it. I ain't worried about it. It was very, very cool. She tells her, Dani tells her about the mutant hospital she saw in her memory. And then she's like, it isn't a hospital. And anyway, she says she's trapped. Reyes calls her in for treatment. And then Dani's gonna let her drug her, because she wants to see if she can find out more about why they're there. It's a great little thing, because why in the hell else would you let her do it? So I liked that. It was very cool, but I don't know. Anything else on this area section? Excuse me.
I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head with the fact that, Dani's scared. And so she honestly thinks that this is somebody who's she still believes that Reyes is trying to help her. So she's still trusting in that. Yeah.
To an extent, she also knows that something's up and she wants to know more about this other thing. This, because Reyes has a secret, right?
True. Yeah, that's true. Yep.
100%. But yeah, I don't know. I liked the entire thing, but I liked because I was sitting there like, why would she let herself be knocked out again if she knows what her power is now? Because now Dani's starting to understand it too, because she knows Illyana's right. And everybody now knows what it is. Why would you let her do it again? Oh, because there's something else going on here and I can go find it out. So that was a smart writing choice. Again, as we were talking about, there's no continuity in the comic for this piece of Dani seeing but who fucking cares? It's comic book. Shut the fuck up.
Well, it's an adaptation of it. It's not going to be perfect, right? So
exactly.
If you want that, go read the books. They're there. Go read them.
Mm-hmm.
No, 100%. Well, so then this scene, the next scene is where the shit hits the fan. It's heavily edited. It'll be a couple 3 minutes here. But basically Rain wants to be with Dani because she knows something's up. Like, she's not going to stop. Just let me be in the room and watch. Just let me sit here. And Ray's like, no, you can come in recovery. Like, whatever I'm going to do to her, there'll be a recovery room. You can show up then. Then Dani finds out something's real, because then Dr. Reyes starts telling a story about putting down a dog. So now we know we're in trouble. And she unzips a body bag. Mm-hmm. She unzips a fucking body bag next to her. So the veil is off at this point. Well,
clearly she doesn't do this a lot. So.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, Rain knows something's wrong. Illyana and Sam then start getting chased by the Smiling Man. Everything starts going crazy here. And then Smiling Man attacks Roberto, which was our Sunspot, which was really interesting. They're just all over the problem is now Illyana's greatest fear. There's lots of them, and now they're all over the fucking place. And they're now fucking with everybody, not just going after Illyana. Because remember, it's interesting. Later, when the bear comes, Rain says, no, the bear's after Dani. The Smiling Men were not only after Illyana, they were just wreaking all fucking havoc.
One of the things that, and I, through my experience with, you know what, I know a lot about this stuff, and I don't really hate the fact I know about it. But one of the things that people that groom children for this sort of thing do is they say, if you tell anybody, I will go after your friends and family as well. And so I think that, it gives me chills of the horrific kind to even think about that. But I think that's where the manifestation is coming from, is like now Illyana's afraid, since they found her and they found her friends, they're going to hurt her friends now too.
Yes. And Dr. Reyes, as I said, I was going to talk about it later and I kind of skipped over it, but when they were really challenging Dr. Reyes about why are you keeping us here with stuff, remember Dr. Reyes starts using all the ploys you do to manipulate someone if you're going to be authoritarian in this way, just like Brev just said. She's like, well, you killed people you love. You're a danger to everybody. That's why you got to stay here. Like she throws every dirty trick at him even if you don't believe I'm all here for good now, and even if the veil's a little off, you still can't go out because you're going to kill people, and you will, you evil kid, you. Mm-hmm. And so she just, the writing, Brev, as you said, the writing in this was really well done because of everything you just said. Like she's throwing out every trick in the book. She's playing every card. But anyway, it ends we can listen to this. It ends where the ring that allows access to the different doors kind of falls off, but it ends when Rain drops out of the ceiling vent to stop, because at that point the dialogue kind of stops. But anyway, last scene we got for you. Here it is.
What are we testing this time?
This is more tests of me. I told you my mother was a vet, right? One day our family dog went feral. Maul, the neighbor's boy. Lift your head. Down. It was rabies.
It's coming from my room.
I'm going to get Dr. Reyes.
Illyana, don't! What the hell is this place?
No, I buried this.
Hey! Look at me! Listen to me! He cannot hurt you! Look! See, he's not real!
My mother tried everything. We was too far along. I can't tell you how hard it is for a doctor to face that, Dani. The powerlessness. You can do your best to save a patient, but sometimes the most humane thing to do is put it to sleep. You're the most powerful mutant we've ever had. But my superiors believe your powers cannot be controlled. It's almost over, Dani.
Dani, wake up.
So can I say Anya Taylor-Joy's acting? To watch what has been the toughest, most badass, character here for, close to 90 minutes be reduced to just she's paralyzed. She's done. Was the look on her face and Sam trying to protect her and help her was very real. She did a really fucking great job. I bought every bit of the performance, and it was all physical and emotional. She didn't say shit, but much scream. That wasn't, sometimes in a horror movie, like I said earlier, like girls just scream and you go, great, it's cool, you scream. No. There was a level to that was, anyway, I'll shut up. But
no, you don't have to. You're absolutely 100% right. She, as I said in our top 5x5, she fucking knocks it out of the park. She's tremendous, and her whole performance is just one of such power and tortured soul. She is strong, she is tough, but she is a tortured person. She's survived trauma, but there are triggering effects. I know those are, I'm rolling my eyes as I say this, those are words that get thrown around too much, but when you, in today's society, just because somebody asks you if you want pickles or not is not it's not a trigger question. But if you see somebody, if you see the person that raped you, that's a triggering moment, and that's absolutely reason for that. And if they come haunting at you, absolutely. Or a song that they would play, sure, that would do it. And I think she gives an absolutely fantastic performance in this. I loved the moment when Rain drops out of the I'm a sucker for a good claw somebody up moment. That's why I love Wolverine so much. I just think he's a badass. I love X-23 for that. So when Rain drops out, I was like, fuck yeah, get her. And I love the fact that it took Reyes by surprise, so she didn't have time to get her shields up before she gets fucked up by Rain. So.
Right. What's really cool about Wolfsbane's power is she can normally, if you have lycanthropy, you can't control it and it's all or nothing. No. She can just morph her nose and ears enough to track someone down. She can just get her claws out to maul somebody, where she doesn't go full wolf. she can control every layer of it and every level of it for just enough whatever's needed in a moment. And that I love, because that's almost never done.
Yeah.
When someone suffers from that, and it's part of her power, but
no, that's true.
I dug it.
One of the cool things about this sequence is that we finally are seeing everybody controlling their powers. Maybe not 100%, but they're, like Berto is finally like totally able to channel his power in a well, safe for him, safe for the folks around him, other than the bad guys sort of way. And so is Sam, and Illyana gets there, and we see Rain doing the same. So this is a great sequence where now that they have to, they are being able to control their powers, which was kind of the whole point. And so it's a great culmination of their journeys, right?
Right.
Yep.
Well, anyway, Reyes then sees the smiling man and runs, realizing, okay, there's a lot of shit going on around here. Sam finally gets Illyana to do something, but she just disappears. She goes to the little, like, I'm out, bye. He blasts off. He blasts off. Yeah, are you kidding me? He blasts off and kills him. You know what I thought of when I saw that? I thought of A-Train and the Boys. I really thought of, because he just runs right through him. It's like, wham, there he goes. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I just thought of that. It was great. Anyway, Reyes then puts a shield not around the campus, around the building. So now the doors won't open. It's like exactly form fitting to the house, which you assume means that vent trick's not going to work anymore if it's up. In that way. I mean, I'm assuming. Illyana then comes in and starts murking people with that sword, and I love her. Bird's like, that's so odd. I loved that he was so turned on every time she became like a badass murdering cool. Like, he's so turned on. It made me laugh. So it's so great.
Yeah, I mean, again, the guy does a great job. I have no problem with the actor's performance. I really liked him, and I liked the effect they chose for him for the movie. I did, and I mean, you could totally tell he's all over Illy. He wants these. Yeah, she's fucking hot.
It was a missed opportunity, and then it could have, as you said, it could have still been a different actor in that role, and still done everything they did, and still have him go after Illyana. That would have been cool.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, Illyana then reads her file. She digs her file out of the
rubble,
the doctor's office. Yeah. And finds out they were prepping her to be a killer. Because it says something like continue, like keep going. You can use her childhood trauma to make her just like mad at anything you want, or that's the goal, right? They're going to try to get her there. But anyway, then Rain smells where they're trying to find Dr. Reyes because they need out, right? And also they want to know what the fuck's going on, all that stuff. Reyes gets on the intercom and still trying, go to your rooms. Yeah, right.
Yeah, what is it she says? I want to talk about, it wasn't obedience this time. It was about trust.
What was it about? I forget too. Yeah, we're gonna play the final scene or the next scene, but I didn't clip in the clip at that point. I don't remember. I know what you're saying though.
It's a great moment because now you know that it's like you're so full of shit.
Yeah, right.
It's that moment, and I think we've all been there when we've had a boss that was such a micromanager and so needed control all the time, and when you finally stopped allowing them to have it, and you saw their powers dwindling, and you're like, the worst you could do right now is fire me. Yeah, the worst you could do right now is fire me, and that'd probably be okay because I would get unemployment, and there'd be a reason to get the fuck out of this place.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so it's like she's lost control, and I love it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. Totally agree. Well, the last scene that we've got queued up to play is for lack of it's the climactic scene and ending. It's definitely sliced up here. But basically they find her because Rain can smell where she's at. She's on an intercom, but she's just hiding behind a screen. And then she gets force fields around them all, and she makes the one around Dani shrink to knock the air out. And anyway, but then the demon bear starts arriving, and they've got bigger problems. It breaks in. They try to wake her up, but she's now seeing the bear. This also part, and Brev, I'd love when we're done, I really want you guys' take on it, because the idea of everybody else manifested their real thing or their fear in the real world. She did, and she was also dealing with it in her head. it was different. But anyway, they're trying to wake her up to get the bear to go away, or at least face down the bear. And anyway, Illyana says she's going to go play with it. And then the sword is revealed in a much more dramatic fashion in this way, to Brev's point. But then we see Lockheed, which was done really, really well. Anyway, she faces down the bear, and then it's not in the audio because it happens a little bit later. That's when Roberto sees her just killing it. And he's like, I'm going to marry that girl. He is so fucking turned on. It's like, yes. Anyway, I love it. Anyway, here's the climax. Here we go.
How do you know she's still in here? I'm a good smeller.
You're a good killer. What's going on? What's Essex Corp?
It's a scientific organization founded by my superiors.
Founded to do what? Or screw with our heads?
To save you! If it wasn't for me, you all would have been dead a long time ago! Hey, calm down. Like I said, I want all of you to calm down. Right? Promise to do that. And I'll let you go. Except Dani. Dani needs to be put down.
No! Let us go! Let us go!
It's for her own good. And yours. I'm sure you figure out her power by now. It's so special. She takes your greatest fear, darkest secret, and makes you live through it. Over and over, over and over, until it kills you. That's it. Breathe. You're about to see your father in the spirit world. What are you doing, Dani?
Dani, guys, she won't wake up. Help me. Dani. Dani. Guys, Dani.
It's coming back!
It's hunting us.
No, it's hunting Dani.
Why, Dani?
Because that's what she fears. Come on. Help me.
All right, 1, 2, 3.
Take Dani to a safe place, and I'll take care of this bear.
Zoom in limbo omnipotence!
What are you going to do? I'm going to play with it. Get her out of here.
Are you crazy? That thing will kill you!
He's right, it's magic.
So am I.
No! Ellie!
Hey, Yogi!
Lions and tigers and bears, oh my. Right, Lockheed?
It was very cool. I agree with you, Brev. I wish that maybe earlier she could have had her arm turn metal, but leave the sword out of it. So you think it's kind of like, I don't know, like something else, but let that sword be for the end. But the sword did get in its glory, like finally, you know.
Oh, it was definitely a hero shot as her arm was transforming with the armor. It was very much like the first time you see the Transformers transform, right? It was definitely, they put all their budget for her effects into that moment. So it was awesome.
Yeah, 100%. But anyway, how did this come off for you? Seeing her, you really love that character. You love the power. How did this come off for you? I mean, aside from what you said earlier, like I wish they'd just saved that. But regardless, how'd it come out?
I mean, I love this whole climax. I think it's awesome. I love Reyes' final moments. I'm a sucker for the monster comes in and eats the bad guy moment, like in Deep Blue Sea or something like that, where the monster just shows up with rope. So I love when the bear showed up. Finally, it was fucking huge. I loved Illyana's, that big moment because even though they didn't have the sword, at least Lockheed shows up. Like Lockheed's here, so that was a nice little reveal. It's cute. It's great, and I love that she's like, "No, I got this." His whole last battle scene. And again, like this is where I think, for me, I bought into this is a character drama. This is a character focused movie, not an event focused thing. So I was like, in my head, I'm thinking, okay, yes, I know they're going to save Dani and everything's going to be fine. They're going to defeat the bear, but my heart was racing. Like, how are they going to do this? This is awesome. I'm having the best time watching the four of them work together to save their friend and try to beat down their friend's own fear to show them that we are here for you. We're here. I always think it's important that friends do that for each other, and that we friends.
That's right. Donald usually needs a hug.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, I just got emotional for some odd reason. Friends are there to help us when we need them, and they're there to help us beat back the fears and our own feelings of insecurity and negative emotions. And that's a lot of what friendships are for. And I think that this movie shows the bonding of these five together. And in this moment, they are standing up to Dani's worst fears and telling her it's going to be okay. We can do this together. We are here to help you and support you in this.
Yep. And that's why I really like that scene where Dani brings Lockheed back to her, because it's that last little bit of unlock. The rest have bonded pretty okay.
Yep.
But it's that one last piece. Like, no, we're all here. The other interesting thing is, don't forget what the bear is.
Yeah.
It's literally fear.
Mm-hmm.
Dani's greatest fear is fear itself.
Yes.
And so there's a whole lot of metaphors and allegories and all kinds of crap going on with her battle. I did find it interesting that it's in her head partially. That's the only thing so here's how I interpret it, guys. I really love a nerdy answer to this. I think the only reason it's that is because of what I said. Her greatest fear is fear itself. So to beat the bear, she has to conquer fear and stop feeding that bear. And that has to happen in her head. So the movie has to show you a physical manifestation of that if it can. That's why I think they did it. And that's why I think it works, because it's off, right? It's like, well, wait a minute. The smiling men are all in real life, and the burning girlfriends in real life, and the W burned into her necks in real life. This is in her head. That's because of what the fear is, because it's fear itself. Am I off? Am I crazy?
No, you're not.
I'm crazy.
Well, not crazy for this. But that's absolutely true. I mean, Dani's worst fear is her own fear of fear, and in her mind, that takes the manifestation of a bear,
right?
And because of the legends her father taught her, and so that's the way. And so that's something the audience can also see. I mean, that's something that was done also in the comic books as well, but early on in them. So I love the fact they used, instead of some other big moment from the New Mutants, they used the Demon Bear saga, which is a slightly less well-known story arc. But I love the fact that Boone used it for this one, because it helps overcoming that fear with your friends, helps unite you stronger. And I think that's what this does. And I love it. I don't get why people don't like this movie. I don't get it.
Right.
I don't get it.
I mean, yeah, because you see her kind of stuck in her own head for a while, until her dad, until her memory of her dad kind of gets her through it, of like, no, you're bigger than the bear. You're bigger than the fear that's within you. So, which is great thought. And this is an allegory. This is a metaphor, but like, people's fears do manifest themselves both internally and externally. And so it's entirely, for just as an example for Illyana, like she has these, memories and trauma that has to deal with, that sometimes will put her, in the fetal position and paralyze her for a while. But then she also will turn around and like, she'll talk with the puppet, right? But then she'll also turn around and take it out on the people around her. right? Because she's afraid that she'll lose control again. And if she's the woman in charge of everybody, then that won't happen ever again. And this is Dani's version of that. It's both in her head and it's literally manifesting itself and hurting other people around her, which is interesting. I don't know if you guys have seen The Life of Pi at all, and I don't want to spoil that for folks who haven't, but there's something very similar in the metaphors of the person and the animal and how destructive it can be. And there's just enough to this movie that I agree with you, Brev. Like, why do people not like it?
Yeah, and I think the young woman that plays Dani does a great job throughout this.
And this was her first movie. Yeah,
it is fucking nuts. And she's a little passive at times, but I still think she makes so many good choices. Her character does throughout the film in an effort to try to understand what her world is. And I love how in the end, like Scott, you point out, like I think Scott, the dad comes back here at the very end to give her that last bit of advice. Like we all hear, the old thing of, bravery isn't the absence of fear. It's being afraid and still standing up to it.
Yep.
And so, and that's what she does at the end, and that she conquers her own fear. And she didn't need a Gom Jabbar to do it. So there you go. There's your Dune reference.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, it's you're right. I loved Lockheed. I thought they did it really well. For the version that they had, I with Brev, I wanted to see him fight more. He did like some scene. He was with her, and I think I saw him breathe fire for a second, but I wanted to see him do something or them do some move together. I don't know. It doesn't matter. I just thought, oh, that's awesome. They actually did get the dragon kind of in here. That's cool. Like, and it was 2 feet long. Like it looked, anyway, I liked the attempt. I lament the fact we don't have a trilogy, or I think we got a lot of them, but anyway, go ahead, Donald. Sorry.
Oh no, it's okay. I like not knowing who Lockheed was. Like I was aware, like the name had been dropped, and so I wasn't too surprised that that he existed, but I was pleasantly surprised that, oh, he's real now. And I thought he was adorable in the vein of Baby Yoda, who was just introduced to us, So I thought it was a great character. I agree. I would love to see more of him. Would love to have gotten more of him in the movie, but and I think that's part of where the 10 minutes or 20 minutes extra that I could have used from this movie would come. But in just a little bit more battling one way or another. But no, it was very special. So I loved it.
100%. Well, anyway, so after this sequence, Roberto basically carries Dani, and they're trying to drag her back, getting her to wake up. Sam goes back for Illyana. Then poor Rain keeps repeating, demons can't come in churches, demons can't come in churches, like all that stuff, right? Like, well, I don't think it gave a fuck. Because it just tore the walls down and did anyway. But she went to the one place she thought she'd be safe, which is the church. Right. And almost kind of was. It helped stall things, but it didn't really do anything. Sam really does hit a cannonball. You got to see him actually hit the bear pretty fucking hard. Anyway, she follows Rain in her head. Roberto hides. They basically take out all of her friends, so Dani's going to have to face this down alone. The cheese is going to have to stand alone here in a minute. Roberto kind of gets crushed. They start taking him out, right? They take him off the playing field. And then this is where Dani sees her dad, like Brev was talking about, and he tells her to wake up and that she's bigger than the bear. All that stuff is good. Anyway, Rain's about to get eaten. She wakes up just in time, and she tames the bear, which again is what I was saying in her head. She has to conquer fear, and that's not the absence of fear. It's overcoming it. And that's what she does. And she basically tells it who's boss in a very, very cool, very on the nose, but very effective way. I don't know. Yeah. Did you guys like that aspect at all? I did. I'd rather be shown that than have her say it works for me better. And I've lamented some of Marvel's other choices where when a character just says, I figured out myself, I figured out whom, whatever, it's fair and it's fine. And it's a legit arc. It's not hitting me as an audience member. This is visceral. I can see it. I can see what she's doing. Her father. Anyway, it worked for me. That's all I was going to say was I think this moment worked for me.
Since it's a motion picture, it's always better in my mind if you can put a visual to it. You know,
Right.
so if you can give us a visual, and I think that they did a really good job with that. Again, repeating myself, I don't get how people don't like this movie. I get why you don't think it's a masterpiece. I understand that, but I don't get why people are like, this thing's a piece of shit. Like, the fuck are you talking about?
Do you think that it's mostly that they don't think it's a piece of shit? That's what they're telling themselves because they haven't seen it, or they only saw it once and they just kind of, because don't forget, everyone wasn't in a great mood when this movie came out.
That's a really good point. Nobody was in a good mood. We had been told it did reshoots, and we find out later it didn't. It was dismissed when it was released by its own studio, and it was sold by the other studio. And I think it was just like, okay, whatever. And then a few critics that weren't going to like it didn't like it. And so I think people just dogpiled onto that.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think that's just, it's unfortunate. It's going to be known as the worst X movie of all time. And I'm like, no, hold up. There are far worse movies than this one.
Right.
But between that environment, when it came out and the way it came out, and the fact that it bridges across genres so that it can't be pigeonholed into one thing, but of course marketing focused on the horror side of it. I mean, why? In some respects, why would people like it if they came to? I think what we're going to end up seeing, this is a prediction, I think that as time progresses, this is going to become one of those sleeper cult kind of movies that as people discover it, whether it, it's on HBO Max at the moment, but eventually it'll be on Disney Plus, I'm sure.
Sure.
I think as people come to see it, it's going to get more of a following of like, no, this actually was I mean, they may, Dark Phoenix may never get redeemed like that. I think this one probably will, because there's just, like, as we've talked, there's just so much to it that, like, Josh Boone and all the filmmakers put a lot of love and care into this movie. It's not the same movie that I expected going in, but I was able to pivot to the point where I realized, this is what it's trying to do. And I was digging it by the end as we were going through. And I certainly could have used more of some stuff. And like you say, I wouldn't call it a masterpiece, but it's definitely the kind of thing that, will come back around. I think. I don't think that it's going to make a fan, push to release more with this cast or anything like that. I don't think that's in the cards for it, but I think that it's going to be appreciated more than it has been.
Do you think, here's a question for both of you two.
Mm-hmm.
What if this had been a pilot for a television show? Do you think, like, with a 10 episode run or something like that on a Netflix or Disney Plus or Hulu, whatever, would this have been more successful?
1,000%. And because it would have, number one, we would have gotten more immediately after. But also, it's a small enough story. It's not. It's one of those. Once again, we talk about, like, every comic book movie now has to be enormous or nothing, and that's not what this one is. And so I think it would fit a little bit more in that context of, this is the start. Here's the rest right now. A week later or whatever. I think that would have gone over a whole lot better, regardless of the rest of the narrative around it.
Right. No, I think it would have worked. No, I would have worked better. I don't know. I don't know if it'd have been better. A trilogy certainly would have been great and worked. I do think this is ripe. I do think, I'm hoping we get an X-Men series, on D+ at some point. Right. I'm sure it's in the cards. I'm sure I'm not the only one who's thought of that. But if I think so. I think it might have worked a little bit better, or at least we would have been able to dive into, you'd had time to dive into each individual person's origin story, which I can't wait to talk about the end credit scenes that weren't. But anyway, I think you're right. Brev. That could have definitely been the case.
And that kind of bolsters up, like, the whole concept of, like, why the Avengers work so well as movies is because the Avengers is an event book. If you read the Avengers comic books, it's kind of a lot of nothing, and then boom, major arcs that are, like, fucking awesome. The X-Men is melodrama and soap opera all throughout. And the parts that the X-Men are really good at, the X-Men have great events, yes, but it's the downtime between them where the soap opera develops and the characters develop that you really get to know who these people are, and their character, the arcs are then played out because of the character choices that happen. throughout, whether it's Mutant Massacre or Fall of the Mutants or Inferno or Extinction Agent or whatever it is, Executioner Song. These are all built in because of the character decisions within the slow parts. The Avengers are alien comes to town. Oh shit, what do you do about it? And the heroes unite to go stop it. I think the movies for the Avengers, frankly, are better than the comic books because you get more of that characterization. But the X-Men work so well. So that's why I think if you did an X-Men series on Hulu or Disney Plus or something like that and really just kind of leaned into some of that and gave your audience the ability to get to know these characters and live in those worlds, because there's so much angst going on with the X-Men and the New Mutants and all of them around them, I think that would really, truly work. And I think that you would have a long-running television show that might last 20 fucking years because you have such a you have almost 80 years of publication history to use. So it'd be fucking awesome. Anyway, sorry, I just got on my soapbox.
No, it's awesome.
That was a good one.
I'm a huge X-Men fan. So
yeah. Anyway, it's the end of the movie. She says they saved her, and Rain says, "No, you saved us." And then you hear Dani tell the story of the demon bear again. And it's like, which one wins? It's like the one you feed. Yes. Oh my God. Yes. Oh my God. Yes. Life lessons, boys and girls, pay attention. But the interesting thing I think after this, and I want Brev, after I kind of go through what they're going to do in credits, that segues into what they were going to do for the trilogy, which I'd love you to break down for everybody. The end credits, we're going to have two segments. One is the original artwork for the New Mutants. Bill Sienkiewicz was Sienkiewicz. See, I knew I was going to bring up the name. He was making original art pieces. He was the original artist on the book for the New Mutants back in the early 80s. He had written had drawn new illustrations of each. So each character was going to get their own, I don't know, little artwork moment, kind of like they did at the end of Endgame for each of the main characters. There's like a little montage-y thing. Same thing. And then the other thing that I heard and that I understood was that, excuse me, they were going to Mr. Sinister or Sinister X, whatever the fuck, was supposed to show up and really be part of it. They were also going to have Antonio Banderas show up as the dad who plays Sunspot. They didn't end up shooting it, but they were going to, and Banderas said okay. They were also going to have John Hamm introduced as Mr. Sinister. And anyway, all that stuff's off. But where were they going to take this, Brev, if they continued? Because I knew about one of them, I didn't know about the other one.
Yeah. So first of all, John Hamm as Mr. Sinister, I think is brilliant casting. I still think they could do that today if they want to bring Mr. Sinister in and do whatever. I still think John Hamm would be fucking perfect as Mr. Sinister.
Agreed.
He's ripe to do a really good bad guy, and I can't wait. I would love to see that. So interesting also on added. So Bob McLeod is the original. So Chris Claremont and Bob McLeod are the two that invented the New Mutants, essentially, right? Everybody else helped out, but they're the writer artist that invented them. And then Bill Sienkiewicz comes in a few issues in after McLeod leaves and gives it a whole new picture and look and feel. And he's the one that's most readily understood to be the artist behind the New Mutants, because he's the one that captures all the basic big moments, and people are like, oh, that's New Mutants, that's New Mutants, that's New Mutants. So I would have loved to have seen that character work from him, because he is, in my mind, the guy that is the New Mutants. When I think about them, his art is it, and his art style is the one that they had for the title card and everything else. So, but to answer your question, the planned trilogy, the second part was going to introduce Cypher and Warlock. So Warlock is a techno-organic creature that comes down, whose mutant power is essentially the fact he doesn't want to hurt people, because his whole race is based on a technarchy of you got to kill your young or your young kills you. He doesn't want to kill anybody. And Cypher is Doug Ramsey, and he can speak alien. He can speak any language. After he just looks at it for just a few minutes, he understands any language, anything, even technology, or he mastered computer whiz because he understands all the codes in there. So that would have been dealing with Warlock, and his father Magus comes down, and how do they defeat that and bring these other two characters. And the last one, the planned trilogy, was going to be Inferno, which is where Limbo basically gets opened up by Illyana gets tricked by a demon in order to open Limbo, and then the demons of Limbo come down and rain down on in the comics New York City, but wherever they are, where Illyana has to finally make the final choice to sacrifice herself to save the rest of the world. which would have been a really cool end for this trilogy, I think, of, going from the little girl all the way up, things happen to all the way to the saving the world, I think would have been fantastic. But alas,
very cool.
We'll never see that. So at least not with this cast, not with these filmmakers. So
rumor was that Disney hated it so much they almost didn't release it. I don't know if I buy that.
Yeah.
I that's a lot of hyperbolic clickbait for comic book vlogs, but I do understand why they put it it's kind of like the Legends material in Star Wars. If they want to go a different direction with X-Men, maybe this can't be there. I don't know.
Yeah.
We still don't know what they're doing with the property. So I that's why I'm still like Brev. I'm still lamenting that we're not getting this other stuff, because it was going. You can say what you want about Dark Phoenix. The X-Men movies were coming out every other year. Yeah. We're getting New Mutants, new trilogies. Like, that was going fine.
Deadpool.
Part of me, Deadpool. Yeah. Like, part of me is like, I would have like, no, keep going, and then we'll get them in the MCU. Like, what? I don't know. I mean, they did so much time travel bullshit, and they could have actually gone. They could have done what DC has done, which is, okay, these stand alone. These are part of the thing. I don't know. They could have figured it out.
They could have done whatever they wanted to do. Yeah.
Go ahead, Donald.
Oh no, I mean, I agree. Like, but I think that there was just enough of a like, I don't know that Kevin Feige knew what he wanted to do with it. Like, I think they had to take such a step back to figure out what they were going to do with all the Fox properties to get them into the MCU, because of course they would be doing that, because it's why they were buying Fox. That I think that they were just kind of paralyzed, and they're like, well, do we go ahead with this? Is that going to mess things up? But then I think they've figured out that, well, no, we need some money. We've already put out money for these movies. Like, it's at this point, they are only a liability. We might as well get something out of them. So let's go ahead and release them. There's no negative impact more than what it already is. So we might as well get something out of it on the plus side of the balance sheet. And maybe it won't be, we may not make our money back, but it'll make something back. It'll make, dig us out of the hole a little bit. And especially for New Mutants and the coming through the pandemic, August of 2020 was right around when Tenet came out. Like, I saw both of them pretty much back to back in the theaters, to the point where, nobody knew, like, everybody wanted to get back to the theaters, but nobody knew whether people would. And so it was a very safe choice in some respects to be like, look, let's throw this out. We know that it's a cast off anyway, one way or another. We do want to get what we want out of it. We do want to get what we can get out of it, money wise, box office wise. So let's do something, test the waters. Maybe everybody's going to want to go see a movie, and this is a Marvel movie, even though it's X-Men. Like, let's just do it and see what we can get out of it. And this is us returning to the theaters without actually risking a lot at this point, and it's risking more by saving it. So let's go ahead and throw it out there, get it done with, and then we can move on. And I think that's what it is. And I lament the fact that this movie fell victim to that process, but it seems to be that that's what had to happen. I mean, I don't know why it takes so long to, like, it feels like they can crank out multiple movies a year. And I understand that it takes some time to ramp up to that, but I feel like they could have been, even with the pandemic, they could have had X-Men in the MCU by now. So I don't know. I
think, yeah, no, that's a tough one. And I agree with so much of what you just said. And to Disney's, Disney wasn't going to lose. If it put New Mutants in the theater and it was a box office hit, it's like, oh, okay, well, let's see if we get this crew back together and see what we could do. If it's a failure, sure, they say, it was Fox X-Men. What the fuck do you expect? So right. it was a win-win for them. They weren't going to lose by releasing it, and it's only, like you said, it's only a liability to keep it on the sheet. Why not just get it out there and be done with it? At least the fans that wanted to see it will now have it. Great.
I also think they were trying to look. We were jonesing for new content, new movies. I think Vin Diesel's Bloodsport was the only, or Bloodborne or whatever that was the only one that came out before Bloodshot. Yeah. We were needing new releases, and I think it was also the tail end of the story is it was also a toe dip in the pool of what happens when we do release a movie digitally only in a pandemic. Does it work? And I got to be honest, they don't release the streaming numbers or anything. So maybe it did gangbusters and I don't know it. I don't know. I know that here's what I do know. Exponentially more motherfuckers watched that Trolls movie because of the pandemic being released than anyone would have watched that in the theater. I just know that much. So maybe New Mutants also got, everyone's like, did you see Trolls? No. Why? Because that's a new movie and we haven't had one in a year. I was like, no, no, I'm not watching Trolls. So maybe it did. Maybe it got a lot of run and play. I don't know.
You're so lucky. I've seen.
Are you?
It.
I'll bet. Well, you've got a 3-year-old. I
Yeah.
can't. Is what it is.
As far as the X-Men not being in there yet, I think my guess is that Feige is looking at this and going, this is, if not the most, this was at one point in time the most popular franchise Marvel ever had, with some of those popular characters. Maybe Spider-Man would be above it. I need to treat this well, and I need to figure out and have a really strong game plan for how we're going to attack this. So I'm cool with them waiting a little bit longer to figure that out. I also wonder, because of what they're doing with Loki and then Kang and Immortus and now Doctor Strange, Wanda,
Yeah.
I'm not unconvinced until I am told it's not, that's not, Patrick Stewart is not Professor X in the moment when the Doctor Strange 2 trailer comes out. Because if he is, that's our inroad. And I am like, okay, awesome. So I'm willing to give a little bit of time to make sure they do, but man, if it better be fucking awesome at this point in time. We better have like a great version of it.
As evidenced by the press for this movie, like that we were talking about, that like they didn't do reshoots. They've been sitting on it since 2017 when it was going to be coming out, because the talks with 20th Century and Disney were in 2017. They were starting back then. So personally, this is me, just whatever. And I don't hate Kevin Feige for it. Don't read me wrong. I'm like, Kevin Feige's a smart guy. He should have been working on bringing these folks and having a roadmap back then. He's had 5 years now to be able to do that. And maybe that's the timing. And maybe it's coming next month with Doctor Strange or whenever that is. But I want, like, if it's not coming in Doctor Strange, then I'm going to be even more impatient. Like, come on. And it's only going to be like, because I'm ready to go and applaud when they show up on the screen in the giant theater. Like that, I'm ready for that. I would do that yesterday. I would have done that in Spider-Man. Like, come on, let's do it. So that's
100%. Well, I think we're at the end. I think the movie, I loved it. I liked it a lot. I thought it did the horror elements really well in a PG-13 way. I thought it introduced people. And if you've never touched an X-Men movie, I thought it did that well. I am getting a little, it is getting frustrated how many things between DC and Marvel they've teased and now they're not going to give us, and they put down and they abandoned. Like, I got to be honest, there was a lot of things going on that I was enjoying that now are in different various stages of maybe not. I don't know. I do hope that here's what we could all hope. I think we could agree. If they're going to go forward with X-Men or do anything of the universe, because these actors are young and just a few years older, you can rehire them, let them go, let them go crazy. I mean, are they really, why not?
Yeah. I absolutely agree.
You're going to bring them in. If you want to make them different versions, don't care, but do it.
There's no reason they couldn't say, and then 3 years later.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Of
like,
course.
where were they? They were hiding. They were running around like Cap and Bucky, hiding from people.
Absolutely.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Because the open ending was and be anything you want it to be. Go anywhere you want it to go. So I'm really looking forward to the X-Men in the MCU and for Marvel to reboot it. I hope I'm really crossing my fingers that they do it right, because we have seen it done well and not well. We've seen it done immensely well, and so I'm really hopeful that they do. I don't care if they recast it. I don't care what they do. The characters are there. I'm in. So I agree with you. I do. What I do. Do you guys think this? Last thing we can say before we sign off. I think that it is Patrick Stewart on purpose. I think it is Professor Xavier with the power that he has, and if they've got multiverses, Why not nod to that stuff, just like they're doing with Venom and the Spider-Man stuff? No, that really happened. And we're acknowledging that happened, and we're going to pull it in a way. I think they're going to do the similar. So do you think? I think they're going to do something similar like that with the X-Men. That, yep, we're going to acknowledge that all this happened in a multiverse or Earth 503, whatever the fuck you want to say. I do think they're about to nod to it all in this next movie. Am I crazy?
I think Loki laid down the groundwork for it, and I think that Doctor Strange 2 is going to blow open the doors.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah,
and if I can just get an adult Donald Glover coming in as a Miles Morales,
I love it.
Wow!
Now we got a multiverse, so he doesn't have to be the Prowler. I mean,
at least for half a second. I mean, honestly, I'd be satisfied with him as a glimpse through one of the shards of the mirror of the multiverse. I'd be okay with that. Like, it doesn't matter to me as long as it happens. But the other thing, no, I mean, I agree that, like, if they're going to do it because they have the multiverse on hand, whether they bring them in and it's all the same, and then and there's continuity somehow, but with the Fox stuff, or if it's just a nod of, yeah, that happened, and now look at how they are over here. I can't remember what Earth we're at, 626 or something like that, for the MCU. Is it 606? I don't know. But
I don't know. The comic books is 616 or 616. So
okay, I think it was something different for the MCU, but I don't know. But I don't need them to be the same. In fact, it's probably wise for them not to. But they do need to do a little bit more than just the Star Wars Legends. And because you have the multiverse, literally, there's a little porthole where you see. That's literally Halle Berry and Hugh Jackman and all them, and it could be straight out of X-Men 1, and they're all like it's just a clip from that. That would be all that needs to happen, right? So as far as I'm concerned, and then move on with what Disney wants to do or what Marvel Studios wants to do with it. So
100%,
as long as they do it.
Yeah, right. I know. Yeah, like restore the Snyderverse, and we can restore the New Mutants universe. Hashtag.
There we go.
There we go. Well, Brev, man, thanks so much for bringing this one to us, and honestly, just thanks for coming on again. We need to get you on. We mess around. We've actually, you're not the only one. We do some of those tier games and stuff on the other show to have you on and just kick around movies, have a good time, and do that kind of stuff too, because that's a lot of fun. We've also had. Yeah, man.
Let me know.
We also tell you what. To end, what do you think of this? We've thought, I don't know what we're going to call it, but we thought of it, and we may do it for the backlot tour. We may do it on the main show, but we thought of something where we'll name off. We could have done it with this cast. Here's the cast, the top 5 actors in this movie. Now look at their catalog. You can only pick one movie. Which is it? Or something where you grab whatever it is, like grab the top 5 directors running around. You can pick one movie. That's it. Pick one, like Christopher Nolan, Spielberg, whatever. You can pick one, and you have to. I don't know. We were gonna kick around something like that. I don't know if that sounds fun. Yep. I don't know. You got any other list games sound fun?
Not really. That sounds like. I mean, I'll come up with other lists, but that one sounds like a lot of fun. I like that.
It's kind of like it's kind of like a fantasy draft or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I keep getting these ideas from the music scene. So I was watching a guy that was tiering metal bands and stuff. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool for movies. But then this other guy was doing the same thing, like Metallica. You can pick one album, go.
Yeah.
Like, or something like that. That's how I got it. I was like, oh, you can do that with actors and actresses. You can do it with producers. You can do it with anything. Ivan Reitman. Well, we're going to grab Ghostbusters. Oh, okay. What else?
It would be fun to make a game out of it and do you can only pick one in like a draft. So if you get several, like you get like you two and then 4 other people on the show, and then you get to do a draft, a snake draft of it, and then post the results online and go, who had the best draft?
Oh, because if Scott's picked Ghostbusters, then I have to pick something else.
Correct. Yeah, you're like Caddyshack, and I'm like, well, shit. Well, it's not gonna be Junior.
And then you know what we could do? We could take that concept and combine it with what we did for the tournament at the end of the year, and actually put the draft in a fucking tournament bracket.
Yeah.
And then everybody vote on it. So and then you might win your tournament or whatever. Yeah.
That's cool.
Very cool.
That's cool.
I do too. I love it. We're gonna keep coming up with the games. Well, Brad, brother, thank you so much. You got some Boy Scout, Cub Scout stuff to get to.
Yep.
So we will let you go. Thanks, man, for everything. You're always a blast to have on, and you also bring out all the inappropriate stuff for me, which my family appreciates.
There you go. Dick and fart jokes right here. So.
Ooh. Anyway,
all right.
It's all awesome. All right. We will get out of here, Brev. Love you, brother. For the Movie Defenders, I am Scott.
I am Donald.
Donald's over there somewhere delayed. See y'all later, everybody. Take care. Bye.
Bye.